I got that anxiety in me, and that anxiety gets in me and my arms. Sometimes I feel like I can almost feel the hair growing in my arms. I can almost feel the hair kind of growing in my arms like a cat that's just licking on on an electrical wire, and not sucking on it so you're zapping, but just getting that, and I feel my arms feeling a little electric. I think I've had too much coffee today, and that's sometime that happened when I've had, when you don't drink or do dope, you start looking for that next hit. And that could be anything. Sometimes I find myself, one time I made a coffee, put like probably 19 creamers in it. You know those little creamers? What is that? That's some type of addiction. Next thing you know, I'm creamed up. Next thing you know, I'm dripping, kind of just dripping at the corners of my mouth with that soft white dairy drop. Just flying off of daddy's little, face creases, just dripping out. Like that drool, baby. Just like that invalid sauce. Just sliding out the side of my mouth. That coffee was so creamy I couldn't even swallow it. I remember I'd put it in my mouth and it would just kind of just find its way out. And that was too creamy. And sometimes you can't get that creamy. But yeah, I just feel anxious. My heart is rattling a little. I feel cagey. You ever get like that, feeling cagey? And I feel like that a lot of times. One thing about, being sober and not doing drugs and alcohol is that I get just damn cagey, man. I feel this little fire in the back of my neck. And I don't know what it is. It's like the devil just lit a match. A long time ago, maybe even before I was born. The devil just lit a match and just set it inside the base of my brain, at the very, very bottom. Like, say if your brain had like a landscape, okay? And out there somewhere at the beginning of the landscape or in the middle of the landscape, there was a wishing well. And you look down in that wishing well and it's just dark in there. And at the very bottom of that wishing well, that's where the devil put just a little flame. And that little flame is just in me. And it's in me. And when I start, turning into that dark night, and when I start dark arting, and start being wild, buying liquor or cocaine, any of that, then that's when I can feel that thing getting, heating up inside of me. And it's, and it just, and if I don't do drugs and alcohol, that flame is still there and it still wants to latch on to other things. So it'll still find ways to ignite. And sometimes those ways are, putting 19 coffees in a creamer. Sometimes those ways are, I remember one time I was at the CVS and some little kid was being an asshole. And he was wearing striped shirts. He had on striped shirts and striped pants. And right out of it, that's the most fucking asshole thing you can do, is wear double stripes and not be an inmate or be a hamburglar or not be a man of constant sorrow and wear double stripes. And they had one of those little inflatable basketballs or something that was for sale in one of those little bins or kits. And I took that thing out of that little bin, that inflatable ball, and just hummed it at this kid. And it hit him strong where that shoulder meets the neck. That soft little shelf. It's like it's just that soft little shelf. It just seems like it's that soft place, just like a lion licked you right there while you were being formed. Like you were being formed out of clay, and then they were trying to make the perfect shape for that around you where your neck meets your shoulder. And a big lion comes and just licks that clay. And that's where that ball hit him real hard, right in that lion lick. And I don't know if I taught him a lesson, but I know I taught him something, that boy. And I don't know who he was. And that was at an AMP. And they don't have AMP anymore. AMP was a chain grocer that they used to have, and they had them by me. And we go over there, me and one of my buddies, And this was a young urban gentleman who was a good friend of mine named Devin, and we'd go over there and buy plums and peaches when I was young. But I remember one time acting out that way, just letting that flame that was inside of me, it's that flame that says, oh, go do that, that's bad, do that, do something. That thing inside of you that makes you want to growl, that makes you want to just, sharpen your nails and just touch somebody real hard and aggressively. And that's what that is. And so I think sometimes it's just been, I don't know. When I get to feeling anxious, I feel like that thing inside of me, the little coffin inside of me where the devil sleeps is starting to open up a little. And you can see the devil's eyes kind of just come up in that space between the lid of the coffin and the rest of the coffin. You can see his eyes come up and look out into the world and see what trouble he can cause. And I think I'm just feeling that inside of myself right now. And I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. I don't think that I'm broken. I just think that, that's my dark art. And that's going on inside of me. What's up with you guys? Happy day to you. I hope your day is good. I hope it's something that I want you to be inspired. Somebody hit me with that text message the other day. They said, out of the blue in the morning, it was 7:30. It was today, actually. It was the guy that worked at the car dealership. This man, Big Stephen Green. And he fell down in his bathroom a couple of weeks ago and bruised his ribs real badly on a bamboo trash can. But this morning, he texted me and he just said, be inspired. That's what he said. And I was like, wow. That's, that made my nuts kind of square up a little. And I've always wished that I could have square nuts so you could stack your nuts on top of each other when you meant business. Because that's one thing I don't like about these round nuts. There's too much room for comfort, for relaxation. As a man, I've always felt like I needed square nuts, that when it's time to party, when it's time to go hard, when it's time to be active and time to, just when it's time to testify, when it's time to take action, you could stack your nuts one on top of the other and say, gang, let's go to work. That's where I'm at. And that's where I'm at today. We got that hamster ranch video up. It's up for Patreon right now. And it'll go through the Patreon system and it'll come out and just be on YouTube in a few days. But that's out there and that's done. And I want to thank everybody for being a part of that, and for letting us see them hamsters, man. My dreams have been filled with furry little feet. And I've gotten so many questions and inquiries about it. And I just, to see 6,000 of those, beautiful little floor bears all at one time, it just strengthens your heart. And it lets you know the power of Mother Nature. I got some coffee right here today, and this is a single origin Yergahafi blend. And I don't know if this shit is made out of, I don't know how many blood diamonds are in the bottom of this stuff, but it's strong. This stuff will make you, it'll make you scalp your cousin. So, I was in Portland a couple weeks ago, and I didn't tell you guys that I met a fellow over there who didn't have everybody have two front teeth, most people. Most people have two front teeth unless they're doing crack cocaine or methamphetamines or unless they're dead. This boy had one front tooth. And the rest of his teeth were all beautiful, well manicured, shiny pieces, elements, strong elements. And he was missing one. And he was sitting there with his parents, and I said, wow. I said, you out of piece, bruh. And his mom goes, he lost it when he was about 6 years old, and he didn't want a replacement. And he's like, yeah, I didn't want it. And people made fun of me for a while. He goes, but now it's one of the coolest. He goes, I feel like it's one of the neatest or coolest things about me. And I had to agree. I was like, damn, this guy, running one light in the grill. this guy playing chess, but he missing a rook. And it was kind of empowering. It's kind of empowering to embrace, to see somebody, just brave to be kind of that different. And I don't know if I have that ability sometimes to brave to be that different. I think a lot about adjusting, or wishing I was differently shaped, and I go on and off of fits where I wear my neck brace at night because I'm trying to, I've always thought my neck was too short, and I've talked about that. I've complained I got medium length arms. And you don't notice it until you got an opportunity to hug someone or something and you can't do it as well as you wish you could. Or when you're playing hoops and all of a sudden your arms, they just feel, they don't feel as, you can't get something. You can't reach for that ball, or, you go to shoot the ball and the ball doesn't even really go up above your head. It just kind of goes in front of your face because your arms aren't that long. And just, I don't know if I've always embraced the differences about myself as much as I wish I had. And I wonder what differences we'll have in the future. In the future, like, people are already getting, big holes in their ears, or people are getting like studs put into their face. In the future, I think we're only probably 10 or 15 years away from people having dorsal fins. You might have a cousin show up with a couple tentacles coming out of his back. The beach is going to be a whole different ball game. When we can do just all kinds of different things, when you could, do some origami and shape your ears, fold them into little swans, or, little bitty picture, maybe they'll shape your ears into, your favorite boxer or something, your favorite prize fighter. You might have Muhammad Ali ears, or Sugar Ray Leonard lobes. It's just, it's amazing to think, that, what things are going to be available in the future. If they're going to be able to make a horn and put it into your skull where it I don't think we're far away. Man. And when I think about how fast that future is coming, it's just lightning fast. It's lightning fast, the things that are happening, the changes that are going on. And it's just a wild world. It's a wild world. That's what I've been feeling. But yeah, I don't know, just feeling anxious today. I appreciate it, though. A lot of you guys made calls into the hotline. We were talking about that War of the States and what that would be like. And so I'm just going to wrap that up a little bit this week. I'm going to get into some of you guys' calls and stuff like that. And yeah, what else? I'm considering getting us an actual studio. And I'm going to look at some tomorrow. So I'm pretty hopeful. It's an expense, but sometimes I'm realizing that, sometimes the things in life, it's like you want something, you have to, it's easy to take the easy steps. But then sometimes there's that space where you're like, oh man, there's not a step right here. What do I do? There's nothing, I don't see that stair. And you'll have people that have been higher to different levels, or further, further out into their sphere, further out into their fears, further out into their fearosphere. And you'll hear them and they'll be like, look, I promise you there's a step there, but you don't know it. And you got to move that leg out there, and you have to, know that something is going to be under you. Or know that something is going to show up. Or know that at the very least, if it doesn't, if something sturdy doesn't surmount under your foot or under the weight of your attempt, that you can always go back to where you are. And I guess, I just think about that, like, I don't know, it's just, get a studio and then, be able to have guests in. Because right now I tape out of the house. This studio is built, this is just my dining room is built out. But, if you invite guests over, you want to have guests on the cast, you invite them over, you just like, do you want to be, in your dining room? Is that nerve-wracking if somebody comes over? I already get nervous when people come over to my house. It already makes me nervous. So I don't know. So it's just, it's just that. But then that risk of, am I going to look stupid? Am I going to be, how am I going to be able, am I going to feel uncomfortable sometimes with guests and stuff like that? I don't know. I guess if I do, I just can say it. But yeah, I don't know. I guess so. Some of maybe what's going on inside of me, some of this energy is some fear, some anxiety. So I don't mean to drop that on you guys. I know this is a funny podcast, or it's supposed to be funny. But man, I don't know sometimes where, to me, there's no separation between where funny starts and where reality goes. There's nothing. I mean, there's very little right there. It's like sometimes there's just not very much space between the two. I had a good time in La Jolla. I was in La Jolla last weekend, and we sold out the shows. And I want to thank everybody that came out. With my boy Jeremy Scipio and Young Hassan, 2 Comedy Store comedians. They came down with me. Jeremy Scipio, really funny. I mean, both guys, super funny. 2 of the funniest guys that I've worked with, as openers. And we're just all so different. Hassan he's from, his family is Indian, I believe, or maybe Middle Eastern. And I'm sure I sound stupid not knowing which one, but oh well. At least I took a shot at 2 of them. I know he's not Norwegian. So there you go. Bang, bang. And then Jeremy Scipio, and his, kind of a darker skinned guy, urban, you might say urban. But it was great, man. We had a good time. Happy Black History Month if you're celebrating. And I was thinking about, usually Black History Month is a thing that's, super celebrated. And this year I felt kind of nervous to mention it. I don't know if that resonates with anybody out there, but I felt nervous to, I feel like if, sometimes I feel this weird thing as a white guy that, if you mention stuff or try to be excited about stuff that is, Black-centric or African-American, that people judge you for doing that, Or you'll get, flack like, oh, well, you're not black. Why are you celebrating? This has nothing to do with you. I feel like there's, I don't know. Sometimes it's hard for us all to move forward when you feel like you can't even be happy for another culture or race or ethnicity without getting, accused of being kind of pompous about it. If that makes any sense, Like, oh, what do you, black, you're not black. Black kids shouldn't have anything to do with you, Oh, you're feeling guilty, so you're saying this sort of thing? I feel like, I don't know. That's one of the toughest things that sometimes, is to feel, I don't know, this year I felt it. I felt like, oh, it's Black History Month. But, I feel like if I say anything, then people call you like like you're just trying to, fake support, or you're just trying to, make yourself feel okay about, white guilt, or I don't know, all kinds of, I don't know, just sharing shit that's in my head. So, I don't know, it's a lot of anxiety, I guess, this week, and it happens sometimes. Sometimes I get that anxiety. I mean, it's just a weird time. They got the Florida school shooting. People have been, a lot of stuff in the news about that. And I'm going to say this, man, if we can't keep guns out of schools, then I say no school. No more school. And I know that it might be a crazy reach, but no more school. If people are playing shoot 'em up at schoolhouses, then no more. And I think about when this stuff started. Because when I was young, when I was in school, this stuff, that was not a concern. Our biggest concerns, I remember in the office at school, they had an alarm thing. And they had regular bell, then they had a button next to it, and it said tornado, and then a button next to it said nuclear. And those were our biggest 3 fears. And if there was a fight sometimes on the playground, people would, tangle. A couple people would tangle up, but that was it. I mean, if I go back in my mind and, I'm sorry if I'm talking about some of this stuff and it's a downer and, you didn't want this as part of your morning and that sort of thing. And, I don't get on here a lot of times with a plan as to what I'm going to talk about. But if you don't want that sort of thing, when I was young, I could not even have imagined that. And I'm sure most kids now can't imagine it until it shows up at their school. But I mean, when I tell you that I could not have imagined that, even going back in time in my brain, if someone would have showed up at school with a weapon, no way. No way. It was not a concern. And now the fact that is, it's become a heightening fear, it feels like. Because this kind of stuff keeps popping up wherever. And and people could say it's for, what causes it. And there's obviously certain factors. There's mental health. There's weapons. Those are two elements of it, for sure. There's probably a mix with a lack of connection at the same time, where people aren't as connected to other people. So the value of a life doesn't, your life doesn't hang. Other people's lives usually hang inside of you like ornaments on a tree. They hold a certain amount of weight, and they're different. They look different. Some of them are snowflakes, and some of them are, beautiful orbs, and some of them are, crazy, unique pieces of art, but they're all like ornaments. Other people's lives you interact with, they become ornaments kind of that hang inside of you. And you learn to value those ornaments and know what they look like and are shaped like and what colors they illuminate by interacting with those people. That's how you know. That's how you know how much you care about someone. That's how you know how much love you have for someone, by interaction. And I wonder if, as we, is some of this the repercussions of us not interacting as much as humans? Is it video games? Video games, huge thing. And people could say whatever, video games don't. Man, there wasn't a game when I was. There were certainly games where you could, there were shoot 'em games where you were shooting other people in war. There were bombing games. I remember Airplane. There was, Super Mario's where you could throw fireball. You could throw fireball at somebody, at another Italian or another dinosaur. But it wasn't as, they didn't have these games where you're walking through buildings with guns. And if that's so much of your, if you spend so much of your life in front of a screen and that's the only place you get acceptance and you're already damaged, what does that all look like? How does that play out? How does that unfold? It's just harrowing. It's harrowing to think. And I didn't mean to get onto it, but otherwise let's shut down the schools. Have people learn online or learn at home. We can't do homeschool because there's nobody at home to teach kids anymore. Both parents have to work. Oh, I kind of wish we could just freeze everyone in America for for 48 hours or 72 hours or a week. Just give everybody's brain a vacation. Not like a vacation like on pills or something, but just a little bit of peace. I wish they could just drop a gas all over the world that just, whenever you inhale it, you know what other people's lives are like. And so suddenly you get all these other perspectives of what people's lives are really like. And immediately you would know how to act and behave because you have that perspective. Like an empathy gas or something that just immediately when it gets in your lungs, you are overcome with empathy for others and with perspective. Because it's competitive, man. There's just so much competition out there. There's so much competition. It's like with social media and everything. It's like there's an electronic score to feel good. You know, it's like you have to get likes and you have to get, or, you know, these things. And this all could be because I'm living in LA. You know, I could be fucking, you know, just drowning in a swamp of bullshit out here. And I understand that. You know, I live in the nation's capital of greed out here, and singularity, and me. But it's, you know, you wonder if because we rely so much on, you know, this electronic scorekeeping for our values, or for what makes us feel valued, that, you know, if you are somebody who's, you know, spends most of their time playing video games, and that if the world just doesn't turn into one for you at a certain point, you know, and then it's just, you can't separate what's, you know, real and what isn't, because you've had so much of what isn't real, you know, like a first-person shooter video game or something. You've had so little of what is real, like human connection. I don't know. It's scary. It's a scary time. So what do we do? We get somebody. We get each other. Hold somebody's hand. You know what I'm saying? Put your finger in somebody's ass. Put your finger in your own ass. And you know what I'm saying? Write somebody else's name on your finger and put it in your ass. You know, Janet or Barb. You know, you do something to feel connected. Touch somebody on the neck. Touch somebody in that lion's lick. Put your hand right there. Let them know you care. You know, take the afternoon off and take your kid to the park. You know, don't put him in double stripes, bro. I'll throw a fucking baseball at that kid. But that's what's going on. I'm rambling. I know I'm rambling. Sometimes I ramble. You know, I'm a rambler. I'll tell you what else. Gray Block Pizza. Get that hitter. I'm going to read something out of their menu right now. They got that Navy Bianco. Red onion. Some onions, you know, they're whatever. They show up. They don't know what color they are. You know, they're gender neutral or whatever. Red onion. Fresh sliced tomato. Some places you go get the pizza, it's the full tomato sitting on there. You're like, what the fuck is this? You know, you bite into it and suddenly there's a gardener across the room staring at you. Like you just molested his, favorite fruit or vegetable. Mozzarella. Fancy cheese. Ricotta. And they got garlic, basil on a garlic pesto sauce. And that's Gray Block Pizza. Get that hitter. And you can check that out at 1811 Pico Boulevard in Los Angeles. And they got another place opening up. It's called Bronx Born Pizza. And that's up there in Bend, Oregon. So if you get up there in Bend and you out there in Evergreen country, or I don't even know where Bend is, but if you're out there and you bending around, why don't you bend on over to Bronx Born and tell them Theo Von sent you, and tell them you want that hitter. Dude, I got into the worst shit. I left. So listen to this. So I go down to La Jolla, right? And I put my car at the train station because I take that train down for relaxation. This traffic, man, I start feeling disconnected. And I take the train down and I lost my keys in La Jolla, lost my car keys. So I get back up, can't get into my car. So I go to the dealership. They tell me I got to order a key. It takes 3 days to get the key. So now I can't get my car to the parking garage. I had to order the key. The key's coming. You know, fuck. So now I won't even get the key until Monday. And so my car at that point will have been in there for 10 days. 10 days in a parking garage. And no car. I've been having an Uber. And Uber's wild, man. Uber, you get out, you know. Some people want to talk to you. Some people don't. Some people want to tell you their life story. Some people are trying to score dust. Some people want you to, listen to their album. You know, some people want to smell your breath. They got wild people out there. And I sit in the front a lot of times. I don't sit in the back like one of these straight mooks, man. I sit up front. You know, I'm mupping around with these cats. I'll sit up there where we can smell each other's breath. You know what I'm saying? Where we could rep lunch on each other. And that's how I do it. Man, we had a great conversation. I felt like on Monday's episode about the states war and what that would look like. Man, I can't tell if I'm here's what I can't tell right now in my mind. I can't tell if I'm crazy for thinking that America will continue to become more separate, or if it's just all a fad that's out there in the media, and I am obviously affected by it and have bought into it. That's what I can't tell. I just can't tell. I know people are really divided on, what's going on and, what their America looks like and their idea of America. It's crazy. So I can't, sometimes I can't decide if in 100 years, if I were to, wake back up out of the great eternity, or if I were to straight up, spelunk down from heaven, because Daddy's going to H-Town. I'm saying I ain't playing around out here. I ain't trying to end up in hell. I ain't trying to end up all hellular. I'm trying to go up top. That penthouse from my Pittsburghers. And it's, it just makes me wonder if, if that's a real thing. If I came back in 100 years, if all the states would be divided, if there'd be like a little group here, a little group there, or if it would just be moving along. We'd all just be, living off of Amazon and stuck in our own little universes in our homes. What that future's going to look like. What's going on? I don't know. I'm in a whirlwind. Sometimes we are. That's why you got to batten down your hatches. How do you do that? Find something that's real. Touch somebody up on a lion's lick. Fuck somebody. Fuck somebody you love. Or love somebody you fuck. Have a dessert with somebody. Split a brownie. Split a lemon bar. Split a lemon bar with somebody. You know what I'm saying? Buy somebody's coffee when you're at the counter. You see a mother struggling up there at the thing. Hit her with an extra box of fucking loops for her kids. Hit her with an extra box of loops, Sneak $20 into her cart when she ain't looking. You got to connect with somebody. Stop in at the library. Walk back in a periodical. Show somebody you're fucking nuts, bruh. Make somebody feel something. I'd love to see somebody, just walk into an Arby's and just, give out free little pieces of chocolate to everybody at Arby's. Just chalking up Arby's. Because we need infections of that vibrant heartbeat. I wish I had a million little hearts. I'd put them in my hand and just start throwing them at motherfuckers. Bam! You got loved up. Bam! 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 Aortas for shortas. Daddy's loving everybody. Get me a little heart cannon, just fire hearts off into the distance. A couple of lesbians running on the beach. Bam! One of them gets hit by that beat maker. Caught right in the chin. Her friend Sandra, or whatever her friend's name is, helps her up. What happened to you? Linda. A lot of lesbians are named Linda. One of them helps her. What happened to you, Linda? And all she knows is that Linda had been hit by love. We got to get some love loose in this world. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Because it could end up, if shit gets lit down here, people are ready. Are people caged up? Are people ready enough to go to war? The war of the states? What would it look like? Where I figured it out at. Last episode, I broke it down. I felt like you'd have Georgia, you'd have Texas, you'd have that Midwestern clan really led by Ohio, and they would probably, settle up in Chicago. That would be their center hub. You'd have that Pacific Northwest would all kind of merge over there into Utah or Idaho, up in the high hills over there, if there's something over there. All the Montana, the Dakotas, all of them come down and end up over there. You'd have that Northeast, that Syracuse. And I bet people from Philly would merge better with people from upstate New York than they would with people from the rest of Pennsylvania or with New York City. I think it's just more like, this just seems to me like more like types of people. You'd have them merge up. And so then that's what your universe, that's what your America would look like. That's exactly what your America would look like. And you'd have Hawaii sitting out there. Just pineapples, titties probably, titties, long dick, everything out there. Everything you want. Vagina, everything. Pork, everything. Pork salad, everything out there. Snacks, pineapple upside down cake, pineapple treats, frozen pineapples, everything. Orange slices, boats, everything. Joy. People doing it all out there in Hawaii. That's where they would be doing it. Dog the Bounty Hunter would be the president out there. You know, long people doing all types of naughty stuff. And that would be probably that would be really a wild place. But I know you guys had some thoughts on it too. I'm going to crack into a couple of your thoughts. I'm just going to hit a little bit of this hotline in just a second. You know, about that states war. We had a lot of people called in about it. I'll be in Tacoma, March 15th and 16th at the Comedy Club. March 17th, I'll be at Spokane, I'm sorry. April 6th and 7th, I'll be in Tampa, Florida at Rock Brothers Brewing, Tampa. Those tickets are now on sale at theovon.com/tour, Tour. April 20th and 21st, I'll be in Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey at Bananas, Banana. That's Spanish for banana. Also, you can go to the reddit.com. I got my own Reddit out there, reddit.com/r/TheoVon. That conversation is going to start popping. We're going to do some AMAs on there soon. So just wanted to let you guys know. I want to thank you guys so much for calling in and hitting this hotline. I'm already excited about next week's episode. This has been a crazy week. You know, I've been shooting that pilot still. Today we had basically we took someone who had called into the podcast and we had him show up today. And we tried to, you know, help bring some solution into their life in real time. And man, we had so much fun. We had Ron Funches on today. If you haven't spent time around Ron Funches, I've never seen anything like him. He's one of a kind. You know, he's a national treasure. And we got the pilot done, you know, and it's long days on there, and you can't think about anything else. It's hard to focus on other things. But tomorrow I'm going to look at some studio space. You know, I want to get some guests in. You know, I got Boosie. I want to get Boosie in out of Baton Rouge. You know, one of my favorite rappers of all time, Boosie and Nelly. You know, I want to get Gerard Butler out there and tell him how I feel, you know, and how I felt when I see him and how I feel about when I, you know, see that man. You know, I have some ideal guests. You know, a couple of my favorite authors. I want to get people in and be able to have them in studio. You know, having them at your house is weird because you have somebody over. You got to do everything. You know, you got to make sure they ain't, you know, popcorn crumbs on the carpet. You got to, catch those fucking, you know, they got turd freckles on the toilet bowl. You got to shine them down. You got to do all this extra stuff. You got to light a candle. You know, you can't fart all evening. You got to make sure you do stuff to make it exemplary for somebody. Because nothing's shadier than going over to somebody's house that's... You ever go to somebody's house that stinks? You ever been to somebody's house that stinks and they don't know it? You walk in and you're just like... And they're like, I live alone. And you're like, no, you don't. You live with the ghost of Shitsmas past. Because it smelled like a bunch of doo-doo spirits up in here. That's what it smelled like. You get into somebody's house and it's just, I mean, you don't have to look around for it. You don't have to wander. You don't have to be smell gelling. You don't have to circumnavigate that house to know that bitch stinks. Some people's houses smell like they just been hiding doo-doo and stuff in their house. Like they got a crock pot under one of the beds or something with a couple of warm, warm body turds grilling out. You know, or somebody hit a couple of, uncooked fish sticks somewhere in their boudoir. You know, or something. Some people, you go to their house and always, here's the thing I notice. If your house stinks, it's hot. That's why I want to know what is up. Hey, if your house stink, cut on the air conditioner. Because you know what's worse than just stink? hot stink. Cool your stink off. That's going to help people if they're coming over. You got a bunch of stinky ass blankets and shit. Wash your house out. If your house is dirty, wash your fucking house. Open the doors. It's spring cleaning, man. And we're going to talk about that in 2 weeks. Spring cleaning. Monday, I'm already, we got a lot of stuff that's been coming in about marriage and relationship. We're going to get into some of that come Monday. But after that, we're going to talk about spring cleaning. Because if your house stink, freshen that thing up. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if you got to tie a couple slices of lemon around your sister's neck and have her sleep over a little bit. Get your house scented well. Because you can't be living in stench. You can't be living in stench. Let's hit some of you guys' message from the States War. You guys had a lot of thoughts. And look, I love this topic. Because, man, you telling me America can't civil war? We did it, 150 years ago? How long ago? 200 years? I don't even know when we did it. That's all. Look, I'll tell you right now. Let me look it up. I'll look it up on the computer. Civil War dates. 1861 to 1865. That's 150 years ago. So that's only 3 people ago. 3 people ago, we were civil warring. So you think it's that far-fetched that we could do it again? The American Civil War was a war that was fought in the United States from 1861 to 1865. War broke out. Over slavery. War broke out in 1861. And this is from Wikipedia. People, say all different reasons why the war broke out, etc. But I'm telling you, that's what it says right here. I'm reading that off of here. So if you're telling me that at a certain point war might not break out because maybe 1% of the population has all the money, or some people have all the money, could that happen? I don't know. I don't know if that could happen because poor people do not work together a lot of times. Poor people, as long as they have poor people divided, I don't see that happening. But what's going to be that ire? What's going to be that thing? Man, but it's exciting too. It's exciting to wake up and be like, shit, I have to stand for something. Today I have a reason. I have a little bit of purpose. I believe in this and I believe in that. Or I don't even know what I believe in. That's where I'm trying to live at sometimes. I don't know. But I'm ready to learn, baby. I'm ready to take an L. I'm ready to take an E and an A and an R and an N. And I'm ready to learn up. Let's hit a call right here. This came in. Boom, boom.
Live free or die, Theo. Live free or die. That's what New Hampshire's coming with. Dude, we all rock together with that shit. Believe it.
Live free or die. You heard him. And that's this your boy Rico coming out of New Hampshire, calling in about that states war. Tell me more, Reek.
Is Rico. And let me just say this. Who's going to call in saying that their state isn't going to win the war? What kind of mentality is that to go into war with? That's fucking brutal.
Well, they got some kind-ass states out there. What is it? Somewhere is the land of lovers. Where's that place? Well, look, you try to hug a motherfucker with a machete? Gang, gang. You're going to lose that hug. More.
For anyone to call up and say that their state isn't going to take, I don't even know what that's about.
Well, they had the guy from Maine that called it. I don't even know. Onward. Sorry, interrupting you. Onward, Rico.
Do you have no passion, no love? New Hampshire's taking it, bro. It's small enough where we all kind of know each other. We got those crazy motherfuckers down in Seabrook, down on the coast.
What? Dude, first of all, small enough where y'all know each other? Dude, this ain't a quinceañera, man. This is a war. You can't be, you know what I'm saying? You can't be like, oh, Randy just got here. That shit can't happen on the battlefield. This ain't a pickup game. You can't be down there and be like, oh, who we dressing out for this? Man, come on, man. Seabrook? You said we got those Mad Hatters down. What'd you say here? Let me listen to this one more time. Let's hear this.
All kind of know each other. We got those crazy motherfuckers down in Seabrook.
What's Seabrook? Penitentiary? Down in what is Seabrook? It sounds like a rich people homestead area on the water. What, you got rich people down in Seabrook? What they doing? Driving Saabs? Man, you can't, what are they going to do? Throw fancy jewelry at people? You know what I'm saying? You can't beat somebody to death with a wristlet. You know, with a 14 karat gold candelabra. This ain't Clue. This ain't Clue the board game. You got to come with something real. Let's hear more.
Down on the coast, I think we got like 13 miles of shoreline. We got those Hampton Beach critters. We got the mountains.
What mountains, dude? The mountains of New Hampshire? What do y'all got, man? I'll look up this fucking cat shit claim right now. Mountains of New Hampshire. What do y'all have? Just say right here, Mount Washington, 6,200 feet? Shit. Listen, Rico, Uncle Rico could throw a football over that thing. That ain't nothing. You got Loon Mountain, 3,000 feet? Dude, I'll backflip off of that bitch. What else y'all got? Nothing. Wildcat Mountain? I'm looking at the picture, the first picture of it right here on Google Images. You got two thick, frosty whites hanging out by a sign. Say toilets this way. Man, this ain't y'all ain't got an army, bruh. This dude got man tits right there. He got tits hanging off his elbows. He got them elbow titties, boy. Come on, man. I'm going to let you go a little more. Let's hear more, Rico.
Canadian border.
Okay, now you got the Canadian border. That's huge.
We got those wild boys out in Keene State College. We got Plymouth State College, Dartmouth. We got them drawing up schematics, dude. New Hampshire is taking this shit. It's not, I'm going to be honest, it's not even close.
Not even close to what? You got people drawing up schematics? What is that? Schematics, dude? This ain't the Iditarod, brother. This ain't cross-country skiing, man. This is war. You got people out at Keene State? Dude, how bad are colleges if they say it's Keene? Come on, dude. Keene State? Come on.
There's not a lot of us, but we're here.
We're here. That's your motto? Dude, that sounds like a shitty motel chain. We're here. Onward.
We're going to take over Maine quick. Believe that.
Oh, I believe that, dude. Maine ain't nothing, bruh. Maine up there eating poisonous berries, dude. You know, it's a bunch of stoners acting like they know what the wilderness is about. 48 hours outside, bro. They'll be in that freezing cold rain, accidentally eat a poisonous berry. Gang, done. Call of the wild. Let's hear more.
There's townships in Maine that are not incorporated into the United States. That's how just vacant it is. So we're going to move in there, take over Maine quick. And we're just going to lay low. That quick takeover Maine is going to be key, then lay low.
Lay low, bro. Y'all going to be tired. Lay low. Y'all hopped up on syrup, New Hampshire. Man, look, I respect it, but I don't see any chance, bruh. No Hampshire. You got no Hampshire, dude. The coolest thing y'all will have is a flag that have a hamp on it, baby. Gang. Onward. Let's take another call here. Repping Cali here, and this is about that state civil war. Let's hear more.
What's up, Theo? This is Mondo calling from California.
Mondo, and that sounds like a Spanish name. Mondo. And Mondo, I don't know what it means. Mondo. It sounds like it means, Mondo. Mondo. Mondo sound like a strong man, or he used to be strong, and now he's, letting himself go a little bit, but the ladies all remember him as strong, that's Mondo. Here we go. Thank you for calling, Mondo.
I heard your input on California saying you think everybody would leave, but I don't know. I think we'll hold it down. California has those gangs too, man. You got to take them into account. And all those people that aren't from here and those immigrants and stuff that we got, they'll be the first on the front of the line that we'll put to, have them take out. Yeah, they could do some damage, get a crackhead or a wino fighting for you.
Now, I'll say this. Now, look, I'll comment. A crackhead will be the best lookout. Because crackheads can go for about 86 hours before they die. I mean, they're basically it's like getting one of those remote control cars and just running the battery straight. About 86 hours, crackhead, up all night. Look out, look out. You know, they'll take apart a tank, they'll do whatever. Crackhead will be all up all night. You know, you wake up in the morning, crackhead caught 3 rabbits and sold all your guns and everything. You know, that's the only thing. You don't know what kind of trades they're going to make in the middle of the night if you have crackheads working with you. And then you got the gangs. That's true, you got the gangs, but gangs are always here. What word do you hear with gangs? Rival gangs. Are gangs going to work together with anybody? Mm-mm. Gangs going to be fighting each other for small territory. Now, gangs are used to claiming territory. So you're going to have that right there out of the gate. You know, these gangs are going to be used to repping territory, but I think you're going to have so much inner friction between those gangs, they're not going to be able to coagulate and form one cohesive unit. Before that, you said what? You said, that I thought a lot of people would leave. Well, I think that people in militaries are going to leave and go back to their respective home states where their home family lives. I don't think just because you're stationed at Fort Polk or Fort Benning or Fort Bragg that you're suddenly going to stay in Louisiana or Georgia or Kansas. I don't think just because, you know, you're stationed over at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, and if you don't have any children or your family there, that you're not going to go and fight for your home territory. You know, those are the people that I think will leave. Illegal immigrants, what are they going to do? Now, that's a tough call. I don't know. Fuck, I'm not supposed to be here, and now they want me to fight for this place? Deuces, baby. Deuces. You know, I was at a, what is that chicken place called? I was at a Church's Chicken. And you think it's kind of a religious thing, but it's not. It just says Church's in the name. You go in there and it's it's the devil, you know, it's the devil running a deep fryer. And I was at this Church's Chicken and shit broke out in there one time. And I kind of, you know, they had a couple of people fighting in there. And I'll be honest, it was a couple of brothers and sisters, man. And, you know, they like to fight at fast food places a lot. You've seen the videos online. I'm not going to pretend this isn't a thing that happens. And so then the people at the, you know, they were arguing with the people and fighting with the people who worked at the churches, at that chicken house. And the people at churches, the dude's like, dude, get back here on our side. Motherfucker, I don't want to work for churches. I ain't having a strong brother fucking deep fry my arms just so I can defend a couple of 9 pieces and y'all motherfuckers. I'm out of here. That's when I left. I ran out the back door of that churches. You know, so I'm saying I've run through the kitchen of a fast food establishment. So when you're looking at me, know that about me. People sometimes are like, well, wonder what that dude's done. Wonder who he is. What's up with him? Well, I'll tell you straight up. During regular business hours, I've ran through the full breadth and space of a fast food establishment and ran out the back door. Okay, I've gotten that hit of hot, dirty garbage right when you open that back door and you feel that, you know, that waft catch your neck. I've gotten that. But what I'm saying is that's the same thing about illegal immigrants. When the shit hits the fan and they don't work for the fan, bro, they ain't staying to weather the shitstorm. Dog, when shit hits the fan and I don't work for the fan, sayonara. I ain't staying here. Illegal immigrants will be gone. Hey, stay here and defend California. Motherfucker. I'm from Venezuela, dude. I'm from Toronto. Bitch, I'm out. So that's what's going to happen there. Let's hear more. Thank you for calling, Mondo.
And then you got all them gang members with them guns and whatnot. And then you just got all them savage farmers we have. So, I don't know. I think California will take it all, you know?
Well, now you guys do have a huge population. And somebody called about that the other day. If somebody has a large population and they have a lot of guns, you know, and even if only 1 out of 10 people is armed, if you have 100 million people, then that's which no state has. But if you have 30 million people, then you're going to have 3 million guns in your state. That's a lot. Let's hear more.
We got the mentality like nobody. And everybody who comes out here, they're out here pursuing something. So they're fighters too, you know? They might stay back up California. You know, you're not from here. Rogan's not from here, but you guys will sure put up a fight for us, you know. So I think California has the upper hand with everybody that is here.
Nope. Look, Mondo, I mean, look, you have, and it's obvious you have a lot of state pride, and I respect that 100%. And I respect your opinion. But, dude, ain't nobody staying out here. You think I'm staying out here next to some of these lily motherfuckers out here in Los Angeles? All these people over here, all these accountants and bullshit artists, all these agents and Muppets and PR bullshit, man, they ain't staying in my house. They ain't sipping off of daddy's candle soup. You know, that split pea is for me. They ain't getting this. So I'm saying I'm not gonna stand shoulder to shoulder. I think the places with a sense of community that is very strong may have a strong hold. So now that's a great point because you kind of are bringing that up, that I think you will see a strong sense of community in, you know, NorCal. Those people have a stronger sense of community. Los Angeles, I think you have the rich people will get off onto their boats. Anyone with a boat is going to have a good chance of survival because they're going to be able to separate themselves immediately from 99.9% of the friction. So anybody with a boat, they're slipping out. You know, they're slipping out on that soft H2O carpet, that water, that Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Gulf of Mexico. Fuck, probably people out there in Lake Huron. You know, people out there stunting in the middle, tying a couple boats up. You know, bringing a bottle of, a couple cases of Red's Apple Ale and cracking off out there. I mean, I'll just say this. I would not stand here and fight for California. Now, in the beginning, I might have to defend my territory. I would band together with some of the people here in the building that I live in. I would make sure that people that I love that are close by, if I could, that they are taken care of. But dude, I'll tell you, I'm headed straight probably over there to Louisiana, Texas. That's where I would probably go. I'd probably try to stop into Colorado on the way if I could. But I appreciate the call, Mondo. Let's hear more.
Yo, Theo. This is Alex from Colorado.
Speak of the devil right here. Speak of that red rock holder right here, that devil, Colorado. Let's hear more.
Talking about the United States of gang. I'm originally from Georgia. I appreciate you saying that we might come out in the semifinals. That's probably true. But Colorado, we got the Air Force out here. You know, we got those sky hitters.
Gang, y'all got them. Okay, you got the Air Force out there, and maybe a lot of those guys are from there. Now, if they have family there, they might stay and just protect their immediate family. So at that point, you're in with the state. But otherwise, you might just have a graveyard of planes and a lot of dudes that, you know, only know how to play Final Fantasy. And, you know, that ain't an Xbox controller in the cockpit. More?
We also got, you know, a little something called the Rockies and the Colorado River.
Okay, so they got water.
And most of these fucking yuppie states are out here sucking up our water. They wouldn't be nothing without our Colorado liquid gold.
Dude, that's a huge point. And I do believe that California gets a lot of their water from Colorado. Oh, it popped up before I even finished it. It sells water to 95% of the South Coast region. Lake Mead, formed by Hoover Dam, is a primary reservoir in the Colorado River Basin. Where do we get our water from in California? Colorado River Aqueduct. Wow. So right there. Wow. That's huge. Let's hear more.
All right. Now, Colorado's definitely making the semifinals. Now, we got another problem out there called Alaska.
Wow. The North Pole. And you know that Santa is going to be their general. And nobody going to shoot Santa. So that's going to be, you got that, when you got that people out there Kris Kringlin. Onward.
Where the hell are we even going to find these people to even fight them? They're out in the middle of nowhere, man. So I think they might make it to the semis. Texas, for sure, making it to the semis. They got border agents down there, a couple infantry guys down there. So, Colorado, Alaska, Texas, we're all going to make it out okay. Yeah, that's what I think. All right. Stay fresh.
I'll stay fresh, man. Thank you. And you stay fresh. Man, Alaska, I didn't even think about that. And Alaska, they're going to have, Alaska. But who's going to go all the way up there and fight Alaska? You know what I'm saying? And no offense, Alaska, because I honestly, I get a lot of calls in from Alaska. But Alaska, a lot of men out there, y'all relaxing. Y'all going to come all the way down here and what, fight somebody? I don't know. I don't think so. So you guys would become, probably a sovereign nation. And you guys would just probably come down every now and then and trade furs to some of the other, some of the other new states that are formed. But I appreciate that water thing's huge. If Colorado stops that water, that's a wrap. That's a wrap for California. All them vegetables, all them fruits. I don't think they have enough those saline stations that can purify. And who's going to operate them? Whoo, that's huge. Let's hear more. Here we go.
Yo, Theo, this is David from South Texas. I just wanted to throw my vote into the great states war.
Thanks for calling, David. Let's hear more.
I am from Texas. I would say we probably have the best shot out of all the states to succeed in the state war.
Yep, I agreed with that. Onward.
Because you got to think about most of the state here is packing heat, carrying guns, and that's just, we're not even in war with anybody right now. We're already carrying guns as it is, like right now on me. I have a huge 12-inch combat knife here in my car.
Damn, I thought he was going to say cock. I like, dang, man. You got that wild cock.
Just because the place where I work at's kind of ghetto, and you never know what's going to go down with these homeless people walking around. But I know for a fact that, most girls, women, carry a piece on them nowadays in their purse.
Erection. Right there, immediately I was erect. I went from 0 to full cock right there. And this cock ain't on half a tank. This thing running full with a woman with a piece, man. And no disrespect to women that don't carry guns. And sometimes a woman with a bow and arrow doesn't do it that much for them. You see a woman pull out a dang, that jam up, that bang bang. Daddy getting strong in the dome, son. You feel like my dick been doing curls. Because that thing's starting to lump up and lump out. More?
Or, in their car. But yeah, everybody here is pretty stocked up on guns and ammo and stuff. So we wouldn't need a lot of guns shipped into the state. I think we would have enough to spare for everybody. We'd be set on ammo as well. We got people who can make their own ammo.
Man, first of all, somebody making their own ammo? Come on. I ain't using somebody's bootleg ass ammo. Where that shit's gonna... Will it go straight? Is this some Australian ammo? This shit gonna come back around and, kill my cousin, kill little Larry? Come on, man. More?
Reloading old bullets and stuff like that. We got the livestock, the cattle, oil, wood, resources, anything. We'd probably be set, just as you saw with Hurricane Harvey, all these Texans coming together and, providing for each other and fighting for each other and rescuing each other out of boats and stuff, and these little canals going to Houston. We have waterway access as well, so...
That's true. Down there through Galveston, you guys do have access. And I think that's only into the Gulf of Mexico, though. Man, you made me think there, how greedy are people going to get, though? When somebody have all that livestock and all of that, that's going to be huge if people are willing to band together. Because my first thought is they don't say every man for themselves for no reason. Would it just be, would we be able as humans to even band together as states? That's another question. But man, I appreciate that call, and a lot of good points, a lot of good food for thought, a lot of good fodder, a lot of good stuff. We had another call last week, and I want to see if I can. Man, I can't play that for you because I don't have it. But we had a lady that called in, and she was talking about prostituting. And I hate to put it like that, just straight up like that, but that's what it was about. We had a lady that called in, was just talking about prostituting and saying her family was having tough times, that she wasn't doing really well, and she had offers. She was a young lady. She had offers from men, high dollar amounts, for some of that ass or for some sex, and it makes you and it was tough to hear that, but also these are desperate times out here for a lot of people. There's a few really well-off people, and there's a lot of people who are not. And the thing is, man, there's a level of greed out there, because in order for some people to be really rich, other people have to be poor. It's got to stay like that. And I'm not saying that I'm against capitalism, that I'm against us, that you work hard and you get what is yours and you go forth. Because you got to have that competitiveness. You have to have it. I think if you just gave everybody the same amount of stuff, it's not going to work. Because somebody then is just going to want more than their neighbor. Or you give everybody something and everybody has a chore, but the next day the first one person doesn't show up for their chores, then everybody hates that person and doesn't think they should have what they have. And boom, that's how it starts. And then fast forward 100 years and you have capitalism. When you have every man for themselves. And it's just, it's like, it's not surprising that these are the kind of questions and things that people are calling in about. Okay, this was the call that came in. I just want to let you guys get one more hit of it real quick before we get into the suggestions that came in from other callers. Onward.
Hey, Theo. I kind of needed your input or opinion on the fact that I've been basically propositioned by wealthy men to enter in some sort of relationship. Even before I turned 18, this has been going on, and I recently moved to LA, and the concentration of this sort of thing is at an all-time high.
And we'll stop it right there. I mean, that's just the gist of it. She goes into saying that her family's having trouble and stuff like that. But let's hear some suggestions that you guys had for this young lady, and I hope that she's listening. I haven't heard these yet, but I'm excited to hear them. Here we go.
Hey, Theo. This is Alexios down here in Clearwater, Florida.
Alexios. And that is, I'm going to say that's Greek or Spanish. Maybe Alexios. Honduran? Something. You sound like a chant, like you could win a contest. I don't know what kind of contest, though. Maybe some flamenco. But thank you for calling, Alexios. Man, I feel like my tongue just came even after I said that. Alexios. Let's hear more. Thank you for calling.
I'm calling in regards to that girl that's thinking of getting into prostitution. My thoughts are, if she's doing it for herself, then I don't really see a problem with it, because it's her body. She can do whatever she wants with it. But if she's doing it for her family, I think she's going to start developing animosity at some point for her family, and resentment. And also, what's the number that she'll need to make in order to make impact with her family,
That's a great point. Yeah, you do. That's true. Because a lot of times we do things and we, if I say I did that for somebody, will your family ever be able to thank you or make you feel welcome enough so that you, you feel like you don't have to, you feel like that's not something you would do again? Will your family ever be able to, thank you enough or make you feel repaid enough where you wouldn't hold it against them? I don't know if that's possible. I just don't know if that's possible. Let's hear more.
How much money will she have to make? I don't know. I think that's a slippery slope. If she's doing it for herself, that's fine, but she's going to be doing it for her family. It's good to take care of family, but at some point you have to take care of yourself. And also, if her family finds out where she's getting the money from, they're also going to be judging her. So it's like a lose-lose situation. And it's also going to affect her future life, and it will impact her personality. I just think that the best thing she could do for her family is be there for them emotionally and love them, as long as they know that she loves them, that's about as much as you can do for them.
It's a good call, Alexios. Those are some great points. You know, how much would be enough? And when you start into that, how, you know, when does it end? It's a dangerous world. Alexios, thank you for the call. Let's hear another one. Here we go.
Hey there, Theo. It's Robin from Atlanta.
Hey, Robin from Atlanta, one of the semifinalist states in the War of the States. More?
I called in to talk to the 18-year-old who's thinking about selling her cooter. This really upset me, calling to listen to your show and laugh and think about things, but this one got me.
Yeah, and I'm sorry about that. I know, look, I know sometimes we get on, you know, I don't know if I'm sorry about it. Sometimes we get on tough topics, man. You know, and on stage, you come see this hitter, I'll hit him, boy. I'll Sammy Sosa. You know what I'm saying? I'll show up with a bat in my hands and a needle in my ass, bruh. I'll be Sammy Sosa McGuire. You know, I'll be Sammy Sosa McGuire, Jeter, fucking whoever else out there. But, you know, you come see me on this podcast, sometimes things get real in here. More. Let's hear more. Thank you, Robin.
Got me. And I want to talk directly to her by first saying, who told you that your family's debt is your responsibility? That's bullshit. I mean, that you can't take care of yourself yet. So what makes you think you can take care of yourself and them? Everybody dreams of making a big life for their family and giving them a house and showering them with love, but you can't do that yet.
And that's a great point. You know, especially at your age, young lady, I'm going to support Robin's suggestion there that, yeah, you have this dream that you want to help your family so much, but you don't see all the ramifications of some of your choices yet. You can't see them at your age. More?
That's miles and miles away. And you don't really go up from being a hooker. There's no in the corporate chain there. I think what bothers me the most is that the sex...
And I don't disagree with that overall, but there's a lot of hookers out here in Los Angeles who are probably CEOs right now, you know? And I'm not saying Chelsea Handler, but I maybe wouldn't be surprised. You know, I think there's a lot of, you know, people that have, you know, hypothetically been a hooker to make their way to the top. More?
The sex trade business is a real business. I mean, someone finds you selling high-dollar pussy, and they're going to want in on it, and they're not going to ask you.
Wow. Man, that's heavy, and that shit just got Russian all of a sudden. Didn't it seem Russian suddenly? Suddenly you just felt a bunch of Russian dudes enter the room? More?
I mean, people disappear off the face of this earth every day in this business, and it's scary. And I don't know who these men are that are propositioning you. You make them sound like complete strangers. I mean, if that doesn't send up some warning bells for you, I don't know what to say. But I think it does send up warning bells because you've already said that this is something that you know is wrong. Maybe not morally wrong, because I certainly want everybody to enjoy the fruits of life. Don't hold back. But this is not the time, and this is not the thing to launch your career, right?
Yeah. And and I don't think that she's trying to launch a career, but yeah, but this isn't the path. Thank you for that call, Robin. Here we have another call. Here we go. And I know I'm just jumping call to call here, but, you know, part of me doesn't want to comment too much on this personally because I already did the other day. And, you know, I just want to hear y'all's suggestions. Here we go.
I'm calling in regards to the young lady calling in about prostituting herself out a little bit for some money to help the family. She didn't sound like she really wanted to do that to me, and so my advice to her is don't do that. There's always another way to get past something, and I don't know, I grew up with mom and 3 sisters, and it would fucking kill me inside to hear one of them doing something like that.
And there you go. And there's that message. I don't know if the young lady has a brother or a sibling or whatever. There you go. That's that message. That's that voice of that, and you know, sometimes that's what it is about people calling into this podcast and this show. Sometimes that thing you hear, that the call that comes in from a caller, that might just be, you know, it doesn't even matter who they are. It could be that could just be the voice of a brother or a father or a sister or a mother or an aunt, and that's what you need to hear. You know, that brother right there, that's any brother. That's that gentleman who called. I don't know if he gave his name right there. That's any gentleman. That's any brother. Probably he's calling on behalf of their sister, you know, or if they, you know, and giving that thought. Yeah, that's a sticky one. how do you get in a place inside yourself where you're able to do that? I don't know. And I don't know how bad, things are for you, young lady. But, being there for your family 100%, they're going to respect that. I know that. But, and I don't know if you've already made some choices or whatever. If you have, you can always change things. One of the worst things I've ever heard is that a leopard never changes its spots. I don't believe that. I believe that with effort and willingness, a leopard can look like anything it wants to. Just take a little bit of time. I appreciate you guys being here today with me. We're gonna wrap it up. I will. I already told you the dates where I'll be at. I want to thank everybody. That Hamster Ranch video will be coming out in a few days. Monday's episode will be talking about relationships, marriage, and that sort of thing. And I'll give all that into you guys on Monday. And sorry if this episode's a little heavy, man. This ain't, some of my anxiety does feel gone. Sometimes it's just gotta have a place to talk, and this is the place that I have right now. And sometimes this will be funny, and sometimes it'll be whatever. It's a conversation. That's what we're having here. This is a conversation, and it's, you guys help me think of things sometimes that I don't want to think about, in ways that I can't think about things. Together we make I feel like we make a pretty unique shape. I do believe that. Thank you guys for being with me. Thank you, Gray Block Pizza. Thank you for everybody's support. Oh, I did get this gift. I got a gift last week, and I just want to read the card came in the mail. It said, "Happy Valentine's Day, Sugar Bear, from your Hamp Squad. Kevin and Nancy J, and Haley and Loretta and Wanda." And this was a Valentine that they sent me. And I get things from time to time, and I don't always thank people on here. But they sent me this Valentine, and I'm going to crack this header right here so everybody can see what Daddy got infected with through the mail here. Man, these Guatemalans, huh? You little crispy Yamaguchis? How you feeling, huh? You ever done an 8-ball at a Bass Pro Shop and played Adele's Hello on a duck call? You ever done that? You ever emptied a bunch of ice trays on the kitchen floor and made snow angels at the house? You ever done that? Get all wet? Get your back wet? Well, dry off, bruh. Dry off. Because this is this past weekend. This past weekend. Drop! Yeah! Who wants a drink from Daddy? Buy this album right now in stores. Yeah! 30 pounds of hamster bones. House. Yeah, come on, nibble. House. Yeah! House. I got house in Luana. Back of the truck like I'm Santa. 30 pounds is a scandal. Give them a name that is random. Cute as fuck. Houses. Ecstasy. Look at these mammals. Tapping them up like I'm Batman. Ezekiel blitzing and sound. Green Day. Random. Cheryl's name. Random. Tiny Bones. Handle. Vidige. Tandem. Who wants a drink from your daddy? Dripping off drip and trend. What the fuck Jolie's can handle? Shawshank and Alec they end.
This next guy got the stage. I love
it. All right, welcome to this past weekend. It is Monday, March 6th. I want to thank everybody who purchased the new album, 30 Pounds of Hamster Bones. Got us to number 2 on the iTunes comedy charts. Really exciting. It's about 2 a.m. It's Monday morning. Monday, March 6th, 2017. I'm always about a century behind. Just got back from Bremerton, Washington. So anybody who came out to the show last night, I appreciate it. I had a nice time. Kind of a naval town. Not the body part, just the service. So a lot of people there in the service, I understand. We had a good crowd. There were about 500 there at the theater. And all ages, man. They had some children in there, and I feel like we really made the most of it. So I want to thank everybody that came out. Thank you very much. If you haven't got the album, that's what I was playing right there. It's a new video. You can check it out on the YouTube as well. I made it with Simon Rex, guest stars in it. Your boy Dirt Nasty. and it's just fun. It's like a play on designer's panda and his hamster. So check out the album, check out that video, and good to be here. Oh, let me touch base with what's been going on, man. We did the JRE podcast, Joe Rogan Experience, if you didn't check it out. I was excited, man. I was excited to get to do it. Joe and I don't know each other very well. I don't know him very well. So I was a little nervous, but we had a nice time. And I felt like I got to know him a little bit better. Really smart guy. He knows so much. And it was inspiring, man. It was inspiring just to be able to have a conversation with somebody. I mean, LA to me is the loneliest place. You in your car a lot. Your best friend is a coffee. You know, a lot of people don't date because it's not geographically desirable. You know, I mean, whenever you meet a girl or a guy, you ask them where they live. And if it's not in a convenient area, then the love ends right there. The love stops at the gas money, really, you know? And it makes me think about incest. Like back in the day, you know, some places incest is more popular. But I think like if you lived in a rural area, if you walked even, 8 miles, you might only come across family, back in the day. So I think in some rural areas, you're more likely to have incest because, hell, you go for a jog, even a long run looking for love, the best you might find is a cousin in the distance, maybe a distant cousin. Maybe that's where the term came from. And that's how I think a lot of incest really probably popped off back in the day. You might only meet people at family reunions or at funerals. So I think it was a little more popular. It was a proximity thing. Whereas in a city, you're usually more likely to bump into people that aren't of the same bloodline. So I think in a city, you're less likely to have incest. But definitely it should be, I don't know if it should be a crime. It should be frowned upon. I think these days there's no excuse for not getting outside of your comfort zone. Even if, and that's way too comfortable. If you're, winking at somebody across the room at a family get together, that's just because you don't know them doesn't make it, Christian or right. So yeah, so I've always had that thought. Bestiality, that's another crazy thing. I'm thinking about, sexuality right now, I guess. And I've always thought that, yeah, bestiality with small animals, taboo. But you get out there and you fuck a leopard? Is that bestiality, or is that pretty much the dopest shit you could do? Like you catch a hyena or a lynx, dude, you fuck a lynx and put that on YouTube, you'll never buy a drink again at a bar. That's for damn sure, dude. So I think incest laws keep them in place, but some of these bestiality things, they should fine tune a little bit of it. I catch some dude snuggling up with a lab, or even a black lab, or, even a sheep or a livestock animal. That's fucking cheap. That's dirty. But I catch somebody, dropping a YouTube video of them, making love to a caribou. That's a hero. That dude's a hero in my book. Yeah, I want to thank everybody for supporting the album, man. It's really great. The past week, for me, last week wasn't good, man. I got down in the dumps, dude. I don't know what was going on. I was just hating myself. I got down in the dumps, and I know that's kind of a recurring theme, I guess, with me. But I got down in the dumps. I was judging myself a lot. I was stuck in my head with my thoughts. And I think part of that comes from just being here in LA. You spend a lot of time by yourself. Like people think that comedians, that it's this glorious life where you're around a million people, but During the day, I'm taking care of my life and my business. And in the evening, I'm on stage, but a lot of people that are at the shows are on dates. You know, a comedy club is like a date event. So a lot of people there is on dates, and I'm not the kind of guy that can really bust into a date and change the game, and peel a woman off of their man if they're out with a man. So I'm more of a casual guy. I got to meet somebody, and I did meet this girl also who's Nicaraguan a while back, and we swapped numbers, but she lives in another state, and we don't really keep in touch. So yeah, so it's tough, man. It's a tough city, Los Angeles, if you really want to find some love. But yeah, that's how I felt, man. I just started feeling down on myself. And I know that I got to get some of these things fixed inside of me. These things that make me feel less than when I am by myself. Because if I'm not feeling good, I can't, I've touched on this the past few weeks. I can't expect somebody else to fill that for me. I can't think, oh, well, when I meet, Marguerite, or when I meet Cheryl, that's when I'll be the happiest. I got to find a way to be the happiest now and be the most comfortable with myself now. If you got a chance to check out the Joe Rogan Experience that I was on, I was definitely excited. I mean, these days it's a neat thing to be a part of, because he has so many fans, and he has just such a breadth of knowledge of different stuff, and he's a big guy, so there's intimidation there in that sense. But I was excited, man. Him and Jamie that produces over there. It was just neat. It was nice to just spend some time with another man, just chatting about stuff. And we talked a little bit about my father. I talk about that a lot on here. I never really had a lot of that man leadership in my life. I never really had much of a mentor. I mean, my father, because of his age, I remember my father would borrow money from me, and I was making allowance money. I was making, maybe if I was lucky, maybe $4 or $5 a week. And I was a saver. I would save my money, and I collected small items that I would find. I was really a little bit of a hoarder. And I used to buy little pieces of quartz and stuff. They had a lady down the street that sold, quartz and magical rocks. And I would get involved, and really, I think I kept her in business for about 1.5 years, and buying just different stalactite and all kinds of just shit she had, just because a lot of the rocks, she said, were magical and would make our lives better. So I invested in a lot of that, basically just betterment granite, for lack of a better term. But I remember my father, when, he wouldn't have gas money, so he would borrow money from me, and it probably made me not really think of him as a mentor. And he had this way of always asking me if he ever let me down. Did I ever let you down? And of course I'd always say no, because I wanted him to be happy. Because I knew he was getting so old that I wanted him not to worry about me. So that was, I didn't have that mentor. I didn't have that comfortability around men. And then my brother left off. My brother went to live with my grandparents and dealt with some of his own demons. And so I spent a lot of time by myself in that house, in that apartment with women. And my neighborhood was dangerous. So I just didn't develop a lot of relationships with men. So I think in weird ways, I long for that. I long for some of that connection, to be able to just spend time with another male that's non-sensual and connect, and just talk and feel like we're just fellas, And it's a wild time to be a fella, man. I feel like it's hard to be a man these days. We don't know what it is anymore. A lot of our parents now are divorced or on second and third marriages, and so there's a lot of, it's up in the air as to what it is to be a man. the old definition of men has been attacked a lot by a lot of feminist regimes, and attack, I don't want to say not lesbians, but attack lesbians and soft men that don't want to support or really discuss what it feels like to be a man. I mean, I feel like these days, if you're to get out in the wild and roar, they'll call the police on you, and the cops show up. You're like, what are you doing? I'm just trying to access my manhood. I'm trying to fucking turn my insides into a damn fight club. I'm trying to be whatever it means to be a man. In adult men, I've talked about this before, but adult men are committing suicide at an all-time high, man. So, it's a tough time to be a man, but I'm still out here trying. I think last week I fell off a bit and got a little in the dumps. But when that happens to me, what I try to do is I try and think about somebody who's less fortunate than me. I remember when I was young, they had this boy in our neighborhood named Thundercat, TJ. They call him TJ. I don't know what the J stood for, but the T stood for Thundercat, and they would call him Thunder. And he was born with some deficiencies. He had hair just growing directly out of his face, like one of those, almost just like the dark arts had just, almost like he was just, one of his parents was fucking carpet, he just had this kind of wolf boy, sort of Wookiee kind of thing, just growing directly out of his face, his hair, and that was alarming to people. And somebody said that he was going to die. And somebody said it loud, and I think they said it in church, and so they convinced enough people in our area that he was going to die. So he got to quit school. And his parents bought him a little truck, a little Ford Ranger, and he just drove it in his backyard. They had a small backyard, but large enough to drive a truck around in. And I remember waiting at the bus stop near his home, and he'd just be missing school. They let him smoke Winston cigarettes, and he would be back in his yard, little Thunder, just driving this truck, as a child, just a real hairy kind of child. And before that, I remember the girls at school would always brush him and brush his hair, and they kind of took to him, championed him as like a little bit of an oracle, and we all did a little bit. I remember I used to sneak over by the fence because his family had a chain link fence, and I would sneak over there and give him sliced peaches, feed him sliced peaches through the fence, keep him hydrated and stuff like that. And he would just smoke cigarettes and listen to Fugees, Killing Me Softly. He was listening to a lot. He had a couple of tracks there in the truck, and I remember Blind Melon. He listened to some Blind Melon there. And they thought he was going to die. So, and the reason why he got to not even go to school was because so he could die at home. They wanted him to have some peace. And he didn't have to, struggle with all his lessons and, spelling and all of that, because you're not going to need that if you're dying. And he never did die. His mother had varicose veins, I remember, and she died. And the daddy, this is how they used to make money. The daddy used to do slip and falls at Pizza Huts. And he would sue them, and he would get that money and get that check. And he died. The father died doing slip and falls. He was working the circuit one year, and I think he was near like Sarasota, Florida, and he died. He split his head open on a salad bar. Out there, doing his craft or his work or whatever it was, scamming. But I remember a lot of times when I would feel down in the dumps as a child, I would think about him and what his life was going to be like and what his walk through the world was probably like. Because he kept a good attitude even though he had this affliction, and even though he, as far as everybody was concerned, was destined for death, maybe heaven, hopefully. A child, you like to think that most children go to heaven. But yeah, that was thunder. And yeah, he did. He last I heard, he lived. He was still alive. So anyhow, when I get down in the dumps, sometimes I like to think of somebody that's having a tougher time than I am. I want to appreciate everybody that called in as well. We got some good calls, some basic life suggestions, and I want to offer that out to anybody. If you need somebody, if you need a friend, you need rural or urban advice. That's what I like to refer to it as, because that's what I feel like I can help with. You can call in to the number. It's on my Twitter and it's on my Instagrams. And it's a 985 number. It's a voicemail. You can leave a voicemail, and I'll get to that and address any of those issues or any thoughts or questions people have. And I have some today, actually. I'm going to get to a few right here. And if you're on the YouTubes, if you're watching this on the YouTubes, you can see that I got a desk now and a little bit more of an environment here. And eventually we might get people to call in, but right now we're just dealing with things as they come. So I'm trying to keep my spirits up right now. That's my goal. And I want to thank everybody that came out in Seattle, because that really did. It made me feel pretty good. But I'm going to get into some questions here, man. I'm going to let you know some dates, too, that I got coming up. But first, let's crack into some questions here. See if we can get this. You guys listen up.
Yo, Theo, what's up? It's your baby boy Brian from Auburn, Alabama. I'm calling you from the deep south. I wanted to ask you about what the fuck do you do when you're depressed and you don't know what the fuck is going on with your life. I'm 23. I'm about to graduate. All these kind of good things are happening around me, but man, I ain't been more depressed in my life. And I've seen you on this weekend and all that shit. And I saw you were going through a hard patch now, and I was going through a hard patch, and I just kind of want to hear, what do you do to kind of see the brightness when you stand in the dark, man? Be well.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate that, man. It's a good question. What do you do? I'm not trying to get all philosophical. What I do, in the past, I didn't do anything, man. I'll tell you that. I made some poor choices. I would lay in my bed. I would do masturbation. I would do just masturbation until I didn't even have any feelings. I would almost just beat my feelings out of my body via masturbation, And I started masturbation when I was young, and it persisted, man. And that's another thing about, no man ever told me anything about masturbation, man. When my father was young, he was probably on horses, and who knows what the fuck they were doing. I don't even know if they had masturbation then. And my brother was gone. He wasn't there. So I learned it, by watching some pornography videos. And some boy beat me up at the library one time and showed me a bunch of pictures of cooter. That's what he called it. And that boy was beating me and making me look at these pictures of cooter that he had that were all jacked up and had been, probably just looked like they'd been looked at so many times. It was nasty. But what do I do, man? I try to find some faith these days. I try to have faith, that things will be okay. It's hard to tell a guy. You're in college, you're going through those, there's a lot going on in your life, I bet. It's busy, your future probably seems immense. Your possibilities probably seem endless. But also it's probably scary if you're graduating, you're getting out of college. I'll just tell you this, man. You got time to make some poor choices. So even if whatever you're choosing doesn't end up being phenomenal, you can fuck up, dude. You could start a bakery, bruh. You could do French breads and, baguettes and whatever, and fuck that whole industry up, dude. You could burn the bakery down and try to get insurance money. You go to jail for that for 8 years. You get out, you're only 31. You could then join the service, get out of that, and you're only 35. And you still can do it, so you have time to kill, man. So I just wouldn't be so hard on yourself. I'd take a step back. And sometimes when you're in your problems, you can't see that the reality of things is that things are okay. Sometimes you're just so caught up, like you got to do this and you got to do that. Sometimes the best thing to do is nothing. and just realize that that by not doing anything, you're going to be okay. Take care of whatever your basic needs are and just relax, man. Relax. Especially if you're in college, man. They got, hot leg running around, and you could do, you could experiment and do homosexuality. You could do whatever you want. And whatever it is, you'll be able to, get through it or get past it. 'Cause time will heal everything, man. I promise you that, dude. Time will heal everything. So I'd say look at the reality, bud. I would say just look at the reality of things. In the big scheme of things, it's not going to be that overwhelming. When I think back about college, the only thing I really remember is that I wish I would have had more fun. That I wish I wouldn't have worried so much about this or that, about the tests and about the, what people thought of me. And I just wish I'd had a good time. I wish I had more pictures from college of me having a blast, bro. That's what I wish. So if I had any guidance there or thoughts or suggestions, I would say take it easy, take a step back. If shit feels dark, find a mentor, find a somebody who already graduated and talk to them. Talk to somebody. Don't go it alone. Find you another man and get out there and put your feelings out there. You can't be afraid to put your feelings out there, dude. That boy Thunder's daddy, he used to, when I would miss the school bus, his dad would give me a ride to school. And he would even help me with my spelling words. And he used to smoke Marlboro cigarettes, and he would blow the cigarette smoke at me while I was trying to recite my spelling. And it's hard to, spelling's kind of hard enough. I did well in it, but spelling, when you got smoke coming at you and in your eyes and everything, even harder. When you're trying to spell, just being attacked by secondhand smoke, that's some fucking straight up Wyatt Earp. You're the Wyatt Earp of consonants and syllables at that point. So, but I remember sometimes I would share with him what was going on, because even if it was just a few minutes in a car together, that was another man around that I could reach out to for support. So that's what I would say, man. Take it easy. Look at the reality of the situation. Don't get caught in the minutia that's right in front of you. Look at the big picture. Big picture, you're finishing college, man. That's a huge achievement. Big picture is you could fuck up. You could do your bakery and fuck it up and still be fine. You could do law school, medical. You got time, bud. So don't get too overwhelmed. Take your time. Take it easy, man. That's what I would say. What else, man? Let's move on. We'll move on, dude. We got Joey.
Yo, Theo, how you doing, man? This is Joey here. Got a question for you, man. You said you fell back into the dark depths of the web there, whether it be on your phone or your laptop or what have you. Quick question for you to want to get out of that world and then fall back into it. What kind of categories are you clicking on these websites, sir? What's your favorite genre, if you will? What's your favorite playlist to take yourself to, if you know what I mean? So, just a weird kind of inquiry, I guess. It's just like to know what my fellow man likes to look at when he's liking to look at those kind of things. You stay well, man. It was so fun. You're the shit too, man. My phone's dead, and you took a picture for me. Thank you so much. Safe travels, man, and stay well, brother. Bye-bye.
Nice, man. I believe he came out to the shows in Denver last weekend. I think it's interesting to ask another man what he, what his categories are in when it comes to pornography. He's talking about pornography. And I'd mentioned that I'd fallen back into the depths of it, and I've been trying to get out of that. And it's scary, dude. It's scary. If anybody's dealing with that, when you get into a lot of it's habit. And there's a new book by Malcolm Gladwell, I think is the gentleman's name. And it talks about habit and about triggers and about how a lot of your life you get it's reactions to things and then falling into habits. and what creates those habits, and how you have to just adjust a few simple things to create new and better habits. I'm not sure the name of that book. I could look it up, but fucking I'm not gonna right now, dude. You can look it up. But yeah, when it comes to pornography, I mean, you know, I was nervous to talk to women when I was young. Oh, I was so nervous. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because I never learned or nobody ever said, hey, go talk to her. My brother was nervous around women as well. And so I think, you know, I didn't have that. I didn't have him guide me, you know. So I was so nervous that instead, pornography, you don't have to have any interaction. You know, you just have to interact really with yourself. And the woman is there just, you know, digitally or in a picture. And so you're not really investing anything. You don't have to put anything on the table. And that can be addictive. And it gets addictive quick, man. And, you know, I started off as, you know, the categories with porn, I mean, that stuff can escalate quickly, you know. I mean, when I was young, it was all on pictures and drawings. People would be drawing cooters and everything in class. And, you know, you'd just be thinking your buddy was passing you a note, and it would be a picture of maybe a breast and a cooter. And a lot of them had hair on them back then. And they would draw the hair on them as well. And so at least that's a little bit more, you know, classy, I guess. Whereas now, just the cooters are just open, and it's just, you know, these cooters, some of them just look like they're attacking, and they're just angry, and, or, you know, some of them look happy. I mean, it's just, but now you're so inundated with all of it. You see the depths of these, you know, vaginas and these, you know, birth wallets, if you will. So, but back in the day, you didn't see that. But yeah, it escalated, man. I got on the video pornography. I remember I used to ride my bike across town before video pornography, and I knew a man that had some magazines, and I would go and just use his bathroom. This man I knew. He was an adult, and I would just go use his bathroom and do masturbation, man. I'd bike about 7 miles to go do that. So obviously my addiction to that started pretty early when I think back on it. And then the internet, man, I would cancel dates because I would just masturbate. And I wouldn't want to have any interaction. I'd be afraid. And a lot of it probably came from fear of interacting with women. But yeah, it escalated. And then, you know, you're watching the, you know, 18 and 19-year-olds on there, barely legal. And they got the different sites. And then threesomes. And then now it's gangbangs where the lady's looking like she's, you know, just playing like it's almost like whack-a-mole with all these penises and cocks coming at her. And, you know, some of it seems, it's just deviant at a certain point. And then you got the ones where the ladies, they're doing butt sex and butt activities. And some of them, the ladies' butts are hanging open in the end. And, you know, you can just seem like cold air is getting in their butt. And that's always scary. I'd be worried that these women were getting sick, or I'd picture them, you know, the next day wearing a scarf or something because they got all kinds of, you know, chilly air in the inside of their buttholes. So that stuff just escalates, man. And these days we're desensitized too, even just looking through Instagram. It's like you see a couple of sexy pictures, or, you know, I've had to get off of a couple of text chains because I have friends who, they just drop out some puss into the text chain, or drop out some titties, or some Italian titties. I got a friend who loves, you know, big tittied Italian women, and he's sending those. And I had to tell him, dude, I don't want to be surprised. You got to work hard these days to not be desensitized, man. And I got desensitized early, and I stayed in it, and I was doing good. I had 2 months of not watching it, of pornography. And I fell off last week, you know, and I got lonesome. I was out in Denver, and the altitude, you know, I don't know if that affected the way my blood flow might have been better because I was at those altitudes, and I was doing, I was pleasuring myself to the greeds of the internet. And if you're doing that, I don't know if you're asking me if I do it, Joey, or if you do it, but you gotta fight it. I mean, it is a fucking fight. It's a fight, man. And I know there's like websites that you can go to that you can download stuff on your computer to stop you from even being able to access porn sites. You can go to sex addicts meetings, sex and love addiction, and those are everywhere. And those are like safe meetings where you can go and talk about those things, and it's a real issue, because I think it's killing a lot of relationships and marriages, because then you show up with ridiculous expectations. It's like it makes it tough. It makes it tough to know how to treat a woman, and it makes it tough to have any feelings sexually when it comes to an actual human being. So right now I'm just struggling, but I'm focused. I got a few days under my belt, and hopefully I'll be able to keep more, and maybe even by just talking about it, like this, it opens up the fact that people, that I'm discussing it, so it's putting it on my brain. So that's that, man. That's what I got there. Let me drop a few dates on you guys, man. April 6th through 9th, I'm going to be at Tampa Side Splitters. Those dates have changed. It's April 6th through the 9th. April 21st through 23rd, I'm at the Punchline in Sacramento. And June 1st through 4th, I'm at the Pittsburgh Improv. Yeah, I want to apologize. I know tonight's not super funny, maybe. We kind of got into it, talking about this stuff. But I guess some of it's, it's real shit. Man, it's real shit. I mean, if anything, I've, on stage, I love my, I can entertain, but when I'm off stage, man, I am battling to be a decent man, and there's a lot of men out there doing it. I don't know if it's just me, or if it's an era that we're in where, we're not growing up properly. But I know that I'm not alone, because, people are calling in and asking. There's a lot of people called in and left questions and comments, and some of them were too long or didn't make any sense. But call in again, leave another one, if there's something that's still on your mind. See what's going on. Let's keep it moving here. We got another.
Hey, Theo. My name's Hayden. Dude, I've had the worst week probably of my life, which makes me feel shitty, because that means that my life hasn't been that hard then. But this girl I was with, we were telling each other some of the things that you only tell people. I told her more about me than I've told anyone in a real short period of time, which might have been stupid, and we were moving quickly. But basically, she went on a cruise for 10 days and came back completely changed, and told me that a month before that she had known, the same night she told me she loved me for the first time. She said she knew that same night that she didn't want to be with me as well, and we were moving too fast, but she never told me that. And I just want to know, man, how do people just tell people things without really knowing, and lead them on like that, and tell them they need to see him, and then tell them 10 days later that they can't see him that much. They're tired of seeing him that much. They don't want to worry about what makes me happy. They only want to worry about what makes them happy and be single. And it's tore me up. I haven't talked to her since we broke up 4 days ago, and I just want to know, should I talk to this girl and try to get more answers out of her, or do people mean what they say.
Wow, man. Sorry, the audio is low on that. That was where the voice, it was just a low voicemail. You got a lot going on there, man. I feel for you, dude. I feel for you because it seems like you're putting yourself out there. You let this woman know that you care. She reciprocated those feelings, or she started them and you reciprocated them. I'll say this, so you mentioned that she went on the cruise. Cruise is dangerous, bro. A lot of swingers go on there. A lot of men go there to get rid of their wives. There's past few years, it's been a popular spot to just ditch your spouse, throw them over, or get them drunk and just push them off during a storm, hide them. I think they found some woman who'd been in a ship for like 6 years or something. She was up in the, in a smokestack or something, some smoked woman, I guess, now smoked. It's, what do you do, dude? You put yourself out there. She told you she loved you. Dude, honestly, man, maybe she told you she loved you for her. Sometimes, and I'll be honest, man, I was in a relationship with a girl for a while and I told her I loved her, but I knew that I didn't. I knew that I just was like fucking millibobbing around in my brain and scared of not having somebody. And so I told her that, and maybe some of it was I didn't know what love, how to figure out love or how to think about it or how to digest it. I just knew that I was afraid to not have somebody think that I loved them. So some of that could be that. Maybe she doesn't know. And, sometimes when we love somebody, we just are doing it for ourselves because we want to see how somebody feels or how somebody behaves when they believe that we love them. I think, I don't know if I'd suggest discussing it with her anymore. It seems like a step back is usually the best move. She went away and came back. I mean, who knows? She could have fallen, she could have met a man who fucking killed his wife on a cruise. She could have met, she could have fallen in love with a staff member. I remember when I was on this cruise one time, they had a girl who broke her teeth out in Shanghai and got impregnated by a mariachi player, a Chinese mariachi player. So you don't know what the fuck is going on these cruises. I mean, it's basically just people floating around and drinking. And anything can be possible really when people are drinking. But it's scary when you put your feelings out there and they don't get reciprocated, dude. But I commend you, bro. For putting your feelings out there. Nobody wants to do that anymore. Fucking most people don't even have feelings. I worry that younger people don't even have any fucking feelings. I think our feelings are going to be in a museum in a few years. You're going to walk in and be like, oh, look, that's adornment. Or that's not a word, I don't think, adore, but like, oh, that's happiness. Look over there. They've got a whole wall of sheer joy. So I think it's commendable you're expressing your feelings. The specifics of it, I wouldn't get down into it. It just seems like maybe she doesn't care right now. And maybe she never could care. Maybe she's not in the same place as you when it comes to affections. And maybe you got to be okay with that. If that's the reality of the situation, then you need to find a way to fix your pain and deal with your pain. And, whether that's finding somebody new, taking time for yourself, talking to somebody else who's been in love or who's maybe in a marriage now. I mean, excuse me. It's hard to see that she's obviously not the girl for you at this moment. She ain't the girl for you at this moment, bruh. You know what I'm saying? She's out tomcatting on these cruises, bruh. They drinking Mai Tais. people being nasty, people being naughty. Who knows? So she's just not the one for you. So you're going to have to just hold on to your feelings, keep your cards to yourself. If you got to smoke some menthol cigarettes, or you got to, go to a water park or do something to get your mind off of her. And, maybe help somebody else. Talk to somebody else. I know the best thing I can do for myself these days when I'm feeling bad is quit feeling for me and start feeling for somebody else. Find somebody else that's having a tough time. Like, find your Thundercat, dude. Get you a little Thundercat out there, and fucking slip in them sliced peaches. Find somebody who's having a tougher time than you. Because you're brokenhearted, but maybe there's some dude out there who's never even been on a date. I remember one time I worked on a show out here in Los Angeles, and it was a reality, kind of unscripted show. And it was after that movie had come out, Old School. Remember Old School? Yeah, it was right after Old School had come out. They made a pilot, which was like a one episode of a reality show about 3 comedians that go back to college and start a fraternity. And it was me, Bert Kreischer, and this guy, Brett Ernst. And so we got to get these dudes who were like in their 30s and some in their 40s even, and we started a fraternity for them. And we took them on like this crazy outing, and we stole this goat, and we went ice skating, and we had to do like all this rush week kind of stuff. And one of the guys on there, he was an operator of a ride at Universal Studios. He'd never kissed a woman. This man was 40 years old, and he looked like a lamb, sort of, that it was nearsighted, like a nearsighted lamb. And he had never kissed a woman. And so at the party, we had a big frat party, and we got him a woman and had him slow dancing. And I remember his glasses even fogged up, dude, like they do in the movies. And during that moment, seeing him kiss a woman, I don't remember what was going on with me, because I knew that there was somebody else who'd been through quite a different and more tough journey. Because I'd kissed some girls, even though I felt rejected by a lot of them, and probably felt and thought that a lot of them hated me. I'd certainly done some lip work with some of these gals, but this man had never. And so this for him was a big moment. And watching him do that made me feel some joy, dude. So, yeah, that's what I would say, man. You don't know if she told you she loved you for her. You don't know if she told you she loved you. You just don't know. And words are one thing, man, but actions are another. So follow the actions, and take your own actions right now to show yourself you give a fuck about you, bruh. You know what I'm saying? Get your back waxed. I got my back waxed the other day. Shit feels beautiful. Couple of Viettes back there just shining up your skin. Put some softener on your skin, dude. Sometimes at night, if I'm not feeling good, I put a little bit of softener on my skin before I go to bed. It's not like having somebody in bed with me, but it's like make me feel pretty good. Makes me feel pretty good, man. Let's get to one more. We're getting long here.
Hey, what's up, bruh? Got a little ex-girlfriend problem. Broke up. Me and her broke up about 3 years ago after dating for 4 years. And she came back into my life talking about trying to rekindle shit. You know what I mean? I kind of miss it. I kind of like the way we had things, but I don't know if it's a good idea or not to go back to something that was broken up. You know what I mean? Let me know what your thoughts are, bruh. Thanks a lot. Fight the power.
Oh, Fight the Power. That's an old rap reference. There was a song, late 80s, Fight the Power. Public Enemy did that song. You can go look that up. Yeah, bruh. Look, I appreciate you calling and asking. I spoke to an ex-girlfriend of mine. I mentioned her a little bit ago recently. And I called her on the phone, actually, to apologize for what a shitty boyfriend I'd been. And it got pretty emotional. And part of me, I think, somewhere inside of me wanted us to be able to give it another chance. I don't know if that was because I'd been lonesome. I don't know if that was because I thought there were enough qualities there and enough chemistry there where there could be an opportunity. And she's moved on now. She's, got her a husband or engagement, and that's that. That's her future, and that's all I can do at that point is be happy for her. But one thing I do know is that it needed time. I couldn't have called her a few years ago and done that because I was still holding grudges. I was still angry. So if you're going to get back together with somebody, you got to make sure that whatever broke y'all up before, whatever issues there were, that shit is gone. And you need to make sure it's gone on your side. Like, you need to figure out what inside of you, even if she did something wrong, why were you unable to deal with it? What inside of you last time y'all split up made you okay with breaking up? What inside of you, made you upset enough at her where you were like, okay, good, I'm done with this as well. And if that's not an issue anymore, if those issues aren't there anymore, then I think you can move forward and try it again. But if you're going to rehash old stuff, you got to start at a clean slate, dude. Because if you're going to rehash old stuff, then it's going to bubble out. It's going to be the same type of thing. Whatever happened before, those things are just going to be lying under the blankets, and they're going to pop up after a little bit of sex, And I would hold off on the sex, man, honestly. I'd just be casual about it. And because you guys maybe are in a different place now. You've already got some history. And, just embrace the good history. At least you got somebody coming back around, man. That's nice, dude. It's better than, it's better than not having somebody. But I would take it easy, man. It sounds like you're taking it easy. I would continue to take it easy. Be casual about it. Don't just dive all the way in, man. It's easy to just try and get up in that, that coont and just, get your tongue in there and just be nasty. But you got to take it easy when it comes to the sensuality. You got to build up the groundwork around that first. Whether this is a new relationship or an old relationship. Anyhow, man, it's late here. It's 2:39. I want to thank everybody again for helping out with the album. I want to thank everybody that called and dropped some calls in. I know I got to start doing this earlier, man. I am a little tired again. But I'll try and, I'm just learning as I go. And I appreciate you guys checking out this past weekend. My past weekend was kind of boring a little bit, so I didn't have a lot. It was just a lot of emotions and just not feeling fucking super great. And sometimes, dude, that is my weekend. And this was one of those times. But I appreciate you guys' support. Anything else that I need to share? Nope, I don't think so. I will tell you this on the way out. That much, like it had other plans that maybe didn't work out. Like maybe my eyes, like one of my eyes was, it had planned to be maybe with a different person, and then it just came along with me at the last minute. So that's really where I'm at, symmetry-wise. My eyebrows, praise God, I don't think they could not know each other more. I mean, they are it's almost like they wanted to be mustaches on two different people. So that is where I am coming in, rather non-symmetrical. How are you guys, huh? Are you symmetrical? Well, if you are, you're, maybe you could win you an Oscar. Maybe you could win you an Oscar. It's Monday's February 27th, and it is 2017. We have advanced. I'm coming to you from Denver. So if I'm sounding a little overtaken or coming in light, it's because I've been up here in the hills, man. You're a mile high. They say right when you get into town, you show up at a mile high. Then I get to the hotel over here. They put me on the 4th floor. I'm like, I can't. I'm a mile up, lady. You sending me another 40 feet up, another 60 feet up in the air. I can't live like this. So I woke up. I've been waking up ashy skin and just my whole head is dehydrated. I feel like a plant up here because you got to drink water. You got to drink water constantly. I saw some lady watering a plant yesterday morning. Jealousy. Only time I ever felt jealousy, seeing a plant get watered. Did I tell you this? They had a Latino gentleman that used to water plants by this apartment complex that I was living in off of Barrington Avenue in Los Angeles. When I first moved there, I was actually sleeping under my buddy's bed, off to the side of his bed, actually, on one of those pool toys. One of the big ones, the nicer ones, the flat ones. Not like one of those big doves or whatever that people are, all the pretty ladies are taking pictures with on Instagrams now. But what was I doing? Oh, I was over there, and they had a gardener that worked there. This Latino gentleman was a gardener. He was a adult gardener, and one time he's watering the flowers, and he goes, "Guess what?" Because he spoke a different language than me a little bit, and he was trying with English and doing well. And he goes, "Oh, I make it rain, I make it rain, I make it rain with this hose." And I thought that was kind of cute. So if you see a gardener, you can tell him that one. Tell him you heard it from another gardener, an affiliate, I guess you could call him. Good to be here, man. Happy leap year. If it is leap year, not sure. They don't tell us when it is or when it isn't. Happy Black History Month. That's wrapping up. So if you have a black friend or a couple of black friends or family members, check in with them. See how that's feeling, what's going on, and maybe get do something special for the end of Black History Month. And happy Mardi Gras down to my friends and family down there in Louisiana. I was so jealous. One of my friends, two of my friends actually, are on a float. They got to ride on a float. One of them got to be the DJ, the musical disc jockey on top of the float, and play all the music going down the street. And I saw a video of his on Facebook, and it looked really absolutely amazing. They also had somebody down at Mardi Gras. We'll get right into the news here. Drove into the crowd. Hit 27 people, man. This fella in his 20s. He was intoxicated. He was 5 times, they said, the legal limit. Now, I don't know if you can get 5 times the legal limit, dude, first of all, you're a champion, bro. But it's amazing that you can then get into your car, take those chances, man. He hit a bunch of people, some children, officers. Apparently everybody's going to be okay from what I hear. The whole idea really of the Mardi Gras parades is kind of dangerous because they send floats, motor-powered floats pulled by trucks and truckers who are driving the trucks. These are truckers who are driving these things, pulling them through crowds of people. So who've been drinking all day. So just the theory of that, if I pitched you that idea, you would say, nah, we're not doing that. That's not safe. But down there in Louisiana, man, it is a hell of a good time. I'm up here in Denver. I'm actually in a closet. I'm in the closet right now. It's 3:58 a.m. I can barely keep my eyes open, but my eyes don't open very far anyway. One thing I've realized over my years, I wish I had, when I see people whose eyes really do open up, I get envious, I got eyes more like a frog or more like maybe like the Dutch. A lot of the Dutch are kind of narrow-eyed. The Oscars were on. We'll cruise into the news, but I'm taping here and I'm in a closet in this comedy condominium here in Denver, Colorado. So if I sound a little weathered, it's because I'm coming from higher heights tonight. I want to thank everybody that came out to my shows in Denver. Man, I had a good time. I was at this new club called Comedy Works South out here in Greenwood Village. Sounds kind of fancy, but it's just kind of a little bit suburban, but you can see the mountains, and there was snow outside, and they had a hot tub, and I got in there and watched my skin turn red and got very dehydrated. But it was kind of fun. So that was good. I was watching the Oscars, a little bit of it. The man gave he chose the wrong winner at the end, Warren Beatty. who was Dick Tracy. I don't know if some of you younger people even remember Dick Tracy, but Dick Tracy was everything. He was an early gun activist, selling illegal liquor and hunting bad guys there. And he was really something else. Dick Tracy, you can look him up. He was a private investigator. He was like Magnum PI, but before that. And then a modern day, I don't even know if you have anybody now. Maybe NCIS, but it takes 4 of them to do it. Dick Tracy did it all. So you can go back and check that man out. But the senior citizen guy, Warren Beatty's getting into his senior years. He announced the wrong winner. It made me think, actually, my father was old when I was growing up, and I tap into this from time to time. My father was, he would let me drive. When I was tall enough to drive, my father would let me drive. So I remember I was 12 years old, and I'd hit a little growth spurt. I'd caught a little, my genetics were just spraying out into my bloodstream and really making me prosper. Prosper in my body and prosper in my not my brain really much, but just hitting new heights. So I was coming in at 5 feet 10 inches, I think. I don't know, I could be wrong. 5'10". I don't know what I was, man. So, and I'd hit me a little growth spurt. My legs were long enough to drive, so my father let me drive. He was 82 years old, and I was 12. And he would let me drive, and my dad used to be he was a many things, but he also was one of those men at the college campuses that would yell at you to come over and sign up for credit card scams. And it wasn't really a scam. It was a good credit card. If you needed one and you were in college, you didn't deserve one, but this is America. So if you don't need it, we'll find a way to give it to you. And we would go sign people up, and I was the little fella on the table barking, getting people over, to get their credit card applications in. And my father would let me drive him there. And it's about 60 miles. One time we picked up my friend. So my best friend is in the car with us. My dad didn't know he'd fallen asleep in the passenger seat. We picked up my friend Scott, and we all drove over to Hammond, Louisiana. And my dad did the credit card barking. And me and Scott would walk around and eat hot chips. They had these hot fries, I think they were called. It was just a bag of just hot chips, but they called them fries, but they were really chips. So we would eat those and walk around the college campus. But I remember that, and I remember the seniors, just seniors can make poor choices. That's really what I'm going with. It was a poor choice to let children drive a car at high speeds, man, top speeds. I remember another time the tire blew out. Driving my father, I was doing about 75. We're on the interstate, and the tire blew out, and he had been asleep because my dad liked to rest and get his rest in, when he felt it was appropriate, which was very often, very, very often. My dad liked to pick his feet, and he liked to dig in his ear with a car key, and he liked to hug me. He was a loving man, but he liked to fall asleep and rest. Because he'd been alive for 82 years, 83 years at that point. You got to get your rest in. Rest is mostly what you're doing. Because eventually you're going to rest eternally, so it makes sense that you are practicing heavily. So he would rest a lot, and that tire blew out, dude, and I never seen a man wake up like that, man. He woke up fast, bruh, hurt his neck. He hurt his neck, and I remember a nice black gentleman stopped and helped us out because that tire had blown out. So happy Black History Month to that guy, wherever he is these days. I don't even remember his name. But anyhow, moving onward. Another story I'll tell you about, just about seniors, because I know, I'm referencing this Warren Beatty. He got allegedly it's his fault. This is the last I heard. It's 4 a.m. and I only looked 2 times because I don't seriously give a fuck. I could care less. I'm excited about the arts, and I'm an artist myself. But some of this, I don't even know what award show we're on. I feel like it's pandering sometimes. I feel like we could give awards out for other stuff if we could just find a way to make it that people wanted to watch those things more, Maybe give an award out for who give the best pat on the back. You ever gotten a pat on the back? When was the last time somebody patted you on the back? And originally, I guess it had to be a man named Pat, maybe. Like, oh, there comes Pat with his crazy hands, But that's a lost art, patting somebody on the back. Because you can't be a creep about it. You can't be you can't do it too hard. So I got a buddy who pats too hard. He patted me too hard the other day. And you know what, dude? I approached him. And his wife was right there. And I approached him and I said, man, you patted me on the back too hard, dude. It's not, at that point, it's not for me. Because a pat on the back is supposed to be, it's like almost like a round of applause between your hand and someone else's back. In someone's spine or back area. Solar plexus. And for you to just wham somebody. I got another little fella I know. He lives down in Texas. And he used to live up in Canada. So he came back to America. And he pats people on the back extremely hard. So that shit pisses me off, dude. If you're going to pat somebody on the back, make it about them, dude. Make it soft. Make it comfortable. Fucking trying to hurt people because you can't control your arms or your feelings. Pisses me off, man. But anyway, what were we talking about, dude? Sorry. So seniors, my dad, I remember another story about my dad. Sorry about getting into these dad stories. But for those of you who don't know, my dad was an older man. He was born in 1910. I got 3 siblings, three beautiful siblings. And not to mention step families. I lived with a couple different families growing up. I got emancipated when I was 14 and went on about my own business, really. But I was blessed to have some people help me out. So I got a great deal of side family as well, But I remember as a child at Halloween one time, my mother would take us trick-or-treating, and we went trick-or-treating one time, and we came back to the house, and my dad was out there. He was giving out the candy. He was inside, but he was giving out the candy. And I remember knocking on the door, and we had our faces painted and stuff, And he opened the door. We'd come back from trick-or-treating. We were done trick-or-treating. We'd finished. We'd tricked and treated, and my little sister was just crying in the stroller, and my mom was pissed and trying to beat us, but we were, geeked up on Milky Ways and nasty, probably pieces of candy that had fallen in the street and had a little bit of dirt on them, and butterscotches, and we was all just mouth full of Tootsie Rolls, man. I remember my brother choked so hard on a Tootsie Roll, I had to hit him with a small log that was by the ditch one time to get it out of his throat. So that's actually kind of a pat on the back that's necessary. Now that's an okay time to pat somebody on the back hard if they're fighting through a Tootsie Roll, or a couple Tootsie Rolls. I swear my brother would put 2 in his mouth at the same time, and he probably still denies that. But he also can live in denial sometimes. We all can. Anyhow, we get back home. My dad opens the door. He's standing there. And he didn't know that it was his own children. He just reached in the candy bowl that he had. He gave us some candy and he closed the door on us. And that was one time that I remember first realizing like as a senior that you get older, and you don't have the jurisdiction over your own vision maybe as much as you did when you were younger. And that was a weird time. It was just a weird moment. Not trying to get dour, but that was just a weird moment that here we were all excited to see my dad, and he didn't recognize us. And I don't think we were super well clad in our little outfits. I just think he was just getting older. And that's one of the first moments I realized that he was getting older and that senior citizens will really start to stray their course. And we're all headed there, man. We are all headed there. I heard a rumor this weekend the number one place for STDs is a place down in Florida called The Village or The Villager. And it's a lot of senior citizens out there touching each other's junk as they get older. And that kind of scares me a little bit. I feel like, I don't know if I want to have sex when I get that old. It's already can be nerve-wracking enough, middle-aged man. So, anyhow, what else, man? Let's keep it moving here. I had a nice time in Denver, man. I was pretty, I saw some friends of mine that came from school, friends from home that live here now. I could live here, man. If you haven't been to Denver, I mean, it's kind of like a little bit of white people hiding in the hills. But it's peaceful, man. It's nice. I couldn't really figure out the downfalls of it. You know, I could see, I guess it's the traffic gets bad. It was snowing, so the weather was weird. Your brakes make that crunchy sound when they got snow in them. Things like that. But outside of that, it seemed pretty joyous. Spent some time with a friend of mine. He has a 1-year-old child, a baby, a female baby. And it was pretty cool, man. It's interesting to see, because my friend, I first met him when he was maybe 12 years old, and I played in the Covington All-Star basketball team, and he played on the Mandeville All-Star basketball team. And Mandeville was fancy, you know. And I remember seeing this boy, and I was like, damn, he had the hairiest legs I'd ever seen for a young man. I mean, he looked like he had the legs of a 30-year-old or 35-year-old. And I remember thinking that this boy he's cheating. This man is using his father or his uncle's legs to compete against us. And that's unfair, dude. And I told the referee that, and the referee looked at me like I was just dumb, just pretty much dumb as fuck, dude. So, and in hindsight, that referee probably was on to something. You know, he probably had a correct inkling, that I didn't know what was going on. But we hung out with a baby, man. A baby's wild, bro. I don't know if you've been around a baby recently, but they're just funny. They're whimsical. You don't know where their thoughts are coming from, and they just moving and gyrating. You know, they can crap if they want, or be smiling, or, you know, dance, or throw something in a restaurant, dude. I mean, they're amazing. They're almost like spending time with somebody that's really on a lot of cocaine, you know? Because cocaine is a diuretic. It'll make you spray out your bottom if you're on some heavy stuff. But anyway, my buddy had a beautiful little girl, and we went and did that, and hung out with him and his wife. Went to breakfast, and that was nice, man. Yeah, children, you just got to take care of them. I mean, we get back to his house. This child doesn't know what to do. Just standing around. Doesn't have a big plan, you know. So you really have to tend to him and have a good plan for him. And, you know, it made me think a little bit more that I wouldn't mind having a child one day. Meet a good woman, maybe somebody that's a nurse, or she could be like a businesswoman as well, but she's going to have to be probably at least a hard worker, because I like to work hard, and sometimes I like to rest a little. So sometimes I need a woman that also likes to rest. Growing the hair out, it's getting hella seedy, dude. People call me a lesbian or adult lesbian. Somebody called me Eileen Warnos the other day, the serial killing woman. Definitely, you can see a lot more animals when I'm walking by will kind of look in my direction. You know, I have that a little bit of like a cockatiel, which is a beautiful bird from somewhere else. Anyhow, what else, man? I am tired, dude. I will say that, man. I'm tired. I'm asymmetrical. But I am happy to be here on this past weekend. Let me drop you guys some dates real quick. April 21 through 23, I'll be in Sacramento at the Punchline. That's April 21st through 23rd. April 25th, I'll be in Millersville, Pennsylvania at the Millersville University. And that's Amish country. So I'm probably going to come a day early and maybe get me a little bit of honey, some local honey, or maybe visit some honey hives or the Amish. It reminds me of this episode of Breaking Amish. They had a show called Breaking Amish where it was about Amish people. And this one dude, they're interviewing him. You know how they always have the little interviews. And he's having to cut the grass with that old-timey grass cutter. It goes in like a little bitty circle, and he's pushing it around, his blades on it. And he's like, man, I don't even know, man. He's like, I was adopted, so I'm not even really Amish. And I thought that was just baffling, dude. Like, imagine being adopted. You realize you grow up and you're like, holy shit, I'm Amish? Like, what a blessing to be adopted. But damn, dog. You know? Throw me back, you know? If you catch me and you're Amish, dude, maybe throw me back. Even though I could use a little peace of mind, I bet they got a lot of peace of mind out there. So, Millersville, Pennsylvania, Millersville University, April 25th. I'll be in Tampa, May 25th through May 28th, and then I'll be in Pittsburgh, June 1st through June 4th. I caught pink eye there in Pittsburgh one time. Very strong strain. Tried to get over my eye into the other side. I tried to get over my nose into the other side. It wasn't able to breach that divide, to get across that hill. So it was kind of like my Gettysburg right there in between my eyes. Because I could have gone blind maybe, like the girl did in Little House on the Prairie. Anyhow, those are the dates. Oh, also this week we got the new album coming out March 3rd, 30 Pound Bag of Hamster Bones. So you should go out and grab that. It is a good album. It's a prequel to a larger album that will be out later this year, talking a lot of stories from growing up in life. But if you want to invest in that, I recommend it. And if you don't want to, that's totally fine as well. But it's called 30 Pound Bag of Hamster Bones, talking about the time that they busted a man in my hometown with a 30 pound bag of, you guessed it, HBs on him, baby boy. And I used to work for that outfit. I used to sell hamsters when I was young. And now a lot of that market's gone to Russia, and I've talked about that before. But you know what still is beautiful? I was thinking about this on stage this weekend. Guinea pigs, man. I mean, just really still guinea pigs are really just they're the peacocks of ground game, if you will. They are a beautiful, beautiful animal. If their hair is taken care of and their owners are taking care of them, conditioning them sometimes, not a lot, but, annually at least, and I would go seasonally. Beautiful coats on some guinea pigs, and very friendly animals. And, if you haven't visited them in a while, stop into a pet store. Get in there and feel some love, dude. They got parrots in a lot of these places, and they'll let you pet them too. And parrots I made love to a girl actually in Colorado. And this girl had a little gray parrot, it was some kind of a little gray parrot, and it would rest on my shoulder while she and I were making love. I don't know whatever happened to that girl. She never kept in touch with me, but that's her choice. I can't feel bad about that. What else, man? I'll give you a quick sensual report, and then we're going to get into some suggestions, some basic life suggestions. Some callers have called in. And I'm sorry I'm so tired, man. I am just exhausted. This altitude is beating me down. I swear to God, if I go up 2 more flights of stairs, if I went up to the 6th floor of this hotel, dude, you might never hear or see from me again. My whole inside's dried out. I'm urinating, but it's just, my penis is just making sounds and not even throwing any urine out. So, my brain is coming in light, but I appreciate your patience. Hell, I don't even know what I was going to tell you. I got in the wishing well business, though. I remember that after the guinea pig business, after I got out of that, because they had some racial issues, and this Asian guy got electrocuted. But I got into the wishing well business with a couple of guys north of town that were, building and running a couple of wells. And I don't know if you've been in that game. That's a wild industry, because you're dealing with people's hopes and dreams, and they're putting their hopes and dreams on these monies, and they are, and you want to try and facilitate some of these, some of their feelings, and, give some validity to some of this. But it can be a pretty dark business. A lot of the people who make them and put them out are just trying to make a buck. And I got caught up, and they would send me down in there to get basically just to, scourge them, just scourge them out, just empty them out. And a lot of people, especially in seedy areas, they throw recyclables in there, guns, swords, a couple murder weapons even. Potentially, I guess. Why the hell would you just throw a gun or sword down a wishing well for no reason? Recyclables, a lot of trash, empty milk cartons. So you just picking through all this bullshit just to come up with, $7, $8. And you're so furious by the time you get the money that you don't care that it's other people's dreams and ambitions or whatever. And that's where it really becomes a crossroads mentally, I feel like, It did for me anyway, of deciding, well, fuck, am I just going to take this fucking money, or am I going to turn it in, you know, all of it into the guys I'm working for? Like, what am I going to do here? So anyway, I got caught up with that. I'll tell you about that in a future time, man, because I am tired. All right, guys, I want to thank everybody that's called in for, you know, guidance and suggestions. If you're going through something, man, we all are, you know, and you just need some, you know, some brotherly advice from someone who's not really your brother, because a lot of times your brother can give you some pretty shit guidance. I'll try to be that, you know, and you can be a woman as well. You can be a man or woman and call in for thoughts or guidance or questions or anything, you know. So we're going to crack into a couple of these right now.
Theo, I had something that happened to me when I was like 13 years old, and it's been a mystery to me, so I just wanted to see what you thought about it. So when I was like 13, my dick and balls, like the skin on my dick and balls got really hard for like 2 days. And then like 2 days later, the skin just kind of fell off, like all in one piece. So I pretty much molted like a snake or a lizard does. So yeah, my dick and my balls, molted. At the time, you know, I'm 13. I just thought that maybe I was growing, like my dick and my balls. It was time for them to grow, but, they never grew. So it's a mystery, man. You tell me what you think. I still to this day don't know what the hell happened. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for the call in there, bud. Wow, that's interesting. I did have some experience where my nipples would get very hard when I was going through puberty, and my neck got very. There was a time where I couldn't turn my neck or move my neck, and a lot of that was due to, you know, puberty and sexual advances and stuff like that. But I've never heard of somebody, you know, their nuts getting hard and basically just shedding their skin like a snake. Wow, it's interesting, dude. I mean, it seemed like you could be on an episode of X-Files, you know, or maybe be in a professional wrestling, you know, outfit, and maybe your finishing move could be to just shed your nuts right into somebody's mouth, you know. I mean, talk about teabagging, dude. You could be the master teabagger. People would be getting lined up, dude. It's the only time that people get teabagged and basically left with a memento. I mean, if you can shed your own nuts and autograph that for people, you could have made tens of thousands of dollars, dude, in the 1980s at different small town fairs. So, you know, I guess just be glad that happened in the past. I mean, maybe you're kind of an anomaly. You know, there's different types of people out there that have different things that happen. I got a couple family members that have extra knuckle on one of their fingers. My grandfather grew 2 inches in his 50s, in his late 50s. And then honestly, he didn't like my grandmother anymore, which is crazy. They've been in love. 2 inches higher. He was out, bro. He was out. You know, maybe you could see more options at that height. I don't know, but he left, and that was them, and that was that. Yeah, it sounds like you got a lot going on, though, man. Your nuts are shedding. I would just, I just hope you put it in a scrapbook. You know, not trying to get all Michael's crafts on you, but I hope you put that little sweet, you know, little coin purse, that little. You know, damn, you should make a yarmulke out of that and sell it to one of your Hebrew buddies, man. That's a ball skin yarmulke. Beautiful. But good luck with that, man. I don't really have much guidance there because I don't know. It hasn't happened to me. Nothing like that happened to me. But thank you for sharing, man. Let's pop into one more here.
Hey, bro, I was just wondering, like, what's up, Theo? First off, let me tell you, I like this show, man. It's great. Good stuff, man. Good. Look, I want to know what your go-to breakfast item is, dog. Like, what you mess with, man? What you do, like scrambled eggs? What you like omelets? What about like donuts? Do you only mess with donut holes? Do you do cold cereal and milk? Do you sleep through breakfast and just eat a ham sandwich? I mean, waffles? What's up? Like, You know, continental breakfast style. Do you just want a bowl of fruit? You know, what you do, bro? Like biscuit with honey. If you at a breakfast buffet and they got all kinds of stuff everywhere, what you going straight to? You know, hot ham. Tell me about it.
All right. That guy is probably the most thuggish breakfast inquirer I've ever met. You know, like, yo, dog, what the fuck, Zane? What you got on that omelet? Omelet. Omelet, these hoes. Omelet. Turkey sausage, turkey sausage, turkey sausage. I got turkey sausage. I mean, that guy was straight thugging about his breakfast, huh?